Well, it is a large hotel chain.
Yeah, they're gonna.
It is a large hotel chain.
But you know that they're gonna appeal it.
Oh, yeah.
Marriott, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because he asked for
Is he an
the,
employee?
no, he asked to go in the. People.
I don't see any of the youth.
Good morning. Boy, that quieted right down.
It's a yell.
Welcome this morning to the regular commission meeting of March the 8th, 2016. We'll go ahead at this point and have our invocation, and it will be done this morning by Commissioner Buzzell. Please stand.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the many blessings that you have given us. We especially thank you for the beautiful day that we have today. Bless our board as we consider the county's business and guide us, give us wisdom to do what is correct and what is right. Go with us throughout this week and keep us close to you as we walk the straight and narrow. I ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this point, if you would like to come forward and speak, whether it be this morning on consent agenda or this afternoon on future agenda items, please fill out a comment card for each item that you'd like to speak on. It's 3 minutes, each item up to 10 minutes. I would also ask at this point that we cut off our cell phones. I'm going to check mine, so that it's not disturbing. And commissioners, that includes you as well. We do have a pledge of public conduct, and I'll read it. We may disagree, but we will be respectful of one another. We will direct all comments to issues. We will avoid personal attacks. And that just goes for all of us, including the commission here, because we want to be civil. So with that being said, we do have 2 time certains this morning, one at 9:30 and one at 4:45. So we need to move, I'm sorry, 9:45. We need to move forward. Updates to the agenda.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commission members. We have several proposed changes. Changes to the consent agenda under financial management, item number 12. The FY16 budget amendment resolution, item number 8. Public Works transfer from the local option 5-cent gas tax to fund the Rowlett Elementary School sidewalk project was removed from the resolution. We'll resubmit that at a later date. Under property management, item number 16, contract for sale and purchase for a permanent easement from 57th Avenue Rentals, LLC, for parcel 814 located at 1411 57th Avenue West, Bradenton. That's deferred till March 22nd. Item 17, execution of contract for sale and purchase for a permanent easement from 57th Avenue Rentals, LLC, for parcels 815 located at 1407 57th Avenue West, Bradenton. That is also requested to be deferred to March 22nd. Item number 21, execution of a contract for sale and purchase for warranty deed with Southern Manatee Fire Rescue District for property located at 5228 45th Street, East Bradenton. The wrong version of the contract was inadvertently included in the agenda item. The correct version has been signed and is attached. Changes to the regular agenda under Public Works, item number 36, FY 2015-16 joint participation agreements for State Transit Service Development Program. The final version of the agreements were received from FDOT and attached to the agenda item, and additional verbiage was added to the background discussion. That would be the 3rd bullet point. Those are the proposed changes, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. All right, we'll move forward into awards. Employee of the Month, Lisa Hickey.
Good morning, Commissioners. Sherry Corrier, Director of Neighborhood Services and Community Services. This is the best part of the department director's job, and especially when you get some new folks, and one of them is appointed, recommended, nominated for Employee of the Month. And today, we're here to recognize your March Employee of the Month, Lisa Hickey. Lisa is with the Ag and Extension Services, and I'm not sure if everyone knows how you become nominated for the Employee of the Month, but it's not necessarily your director or the county administrator or even the commissioners that nominate you. It's usually your colleagues, people that observe and see your work. It could be folks in the community that bring that forward to recognize what you've done. And in Lisa's case, the packet was really thick. It's about this thick. And I wanted her to know that at least 12 people submitted her name for a nomination, and I want to thank the committee for recognizing her. Many times, I think Lisa would probably tell you that her job is difficult, but she enjoys it tremendously, comes to work every day dedicated with leadership, enthusiasm, courage, spirit, and inspiring all of the volunteers. And I have only had an opportunity to work with Lisa for a couple months, and so I'd like to acknowledge her nomination and award. And I think she has some family members here too, though, so she may want to get them up here. I'm looking behind me. I don't see anybody with her. Also, Lisa might want to know that there's a tremendous support here in the audience for her and her nomination, and maybe folks would just give the high sign that they're here.
Oh, my gosh.
And I'd like to thank the committee again. I'd like to turn it over to Samantha Kennedy, who is the Ag and Extensions Division Manager and who is in charge of Lisa. Thank you.
I wouldn't quite put it that way, but I am her supervisor. Good morning, Commission, Mr. Hunsiger, Mr. Palmer. It's a pleasure to be here always for something good, and we've always had the pleasure of being here in terms of extension for good stuff. So it's one of the best parts about working in extension is we always got good stuff going on. Lisa is one of our valued team members. She's been with us since 2007, and she actually just celebrated her 9th anniversary with us just a few days ago. She is currently the urban horticulture agent, and she started as the master gardener coordinator back in 2007. She currently supervises 3 staff and trains and coordinates over 80 volunteers in 2 major volunteer programs, the Master Gardeners and the Master Naturalist program. She designs, delivers, and evaluates a variety of educational programs that reach thousands of people in Manatee County each year. Her programming efforts focus on horticulture and natural resources, such as the Florida Friendly Landscaping Program, and formerly she used to oversee our water conservation program as well. The things that she teaches are things that help homeowners and other residents about landscaping and gardening techniques that save water and reduce fertilizer and pesticide use and protect vital natural resources. Lisa's educational outreach efforts have won numerous awards from state and national professional associations and has been recognized for excellence by state specialists and other colleagues around the state. She has been selected to present her work at state, national, and international conferences. Lisa is passionate about her work, and that passion shines through in all that she does. She is respected by clients, co-workers, and volunteers, and continually seeks out new opportunities not only to help her clientele, but to improve her knowledge and skills. She recently completed her master's degree in environmental horticulture while still maintaining a full workload. Lisa was also instrumental in the design and development of our educational garden, which is a showpiece at our office, and I invite all of you to come and see it if you haven't already, and is held up as an example for others to follow in developing their own gardens. Lisa cares about her clients and strives to provide them with the best solution to their problems. She's a go-to person for plant disease diagnostics and has yet to meet a plant she can't identify. She embodies the mission of UF-IFAS Extension every single day, and she strives to uphold the principles of the county's ACE philosophy of accountability, civility, and ethics in everything that she does. We are all very proud of Lisa and the work that she does to help improve the lives of Manatee County's citizens. She's a valued part of our extension team, and we look forward to many more years of excellence from her. As you can see, there are tons of people here today from neighborhood services, community services, master gardeners, master naturalists, and family, all here to support Lisa because we all know what a great job she does, and we want to be here and make sure that she knows we know that she does a great job. Thank you very much, Lisa.
Thank you, everybody, also for being here. I've been in front of you guys probably 2-3 times a year recognizing Master Gardener and Master Naturalist volunteers. And so it's a challenge to be on this side, actually being the person being presented. I'm about as shaky as a leaf right now. And I always tell the volunteers, you know what? It's 5 minutes. It'll be over with. Don't worry. It's nothing to worry about. But I do appreciate the opportunity. I developed a passion for teaching horticulture and Florida ecology over the years. And when somebody asks me a question, it's always a challenge because I want to share everything I know with them. And sometimes I just feel like I'm sharing too much, and I'll apologize that it's like, I'm sorry, you probably got more than you wanted to. But I can't thank enough the volunteer teams because over the years I've empowered them, I've coached them, retained them, and I really believe in volunteerism, and I believe what the county, as we say, we want more volunteers. I believe in that. And I think the only reason I'm in front of you today is because they also believed in me. And when you have a wonderful group of volunteers, and I have an urban horticultural staff team, when you have wonderful people, you shine right with them. So that's why I'm also here. As far as thanks, I'd have to start with Brenda Rogers, who hired me a little over 9 years ago. She believed in me first and saw abilities, and then I sunk into every piece of training that I could to just absorb and get my knowledge in horticulture. And then the urban horticulture staff, Kathy, Cindy, and Ross. Half of our team is actually out on a field trip educating the master gardeners today, so I'm missing about 25 people because of the field trip. So thank goodness for you all, they're not here. But I appreciate them because they put up with every mistake that I made over the years, and they also put up with when I would say, oh, yes, we can do that, and the rolling of the eyes, like she's going to take on one more project. And then my family, my husband's in training, and my son's I've taken a test this morning, but I do have my daughter and her boyfriend who have been supporting me every weekend when I was studying, or I was planning a workshop, or I was doing something. It was like, Mom, can we go to the mall? And I'm like, yes. We will, girl, and we fit it in. But they've had so much patience for me to do everything that I love doing. And I have one other special person outside of the volunteers, because I can never thank volunteers enough to be up here. But it's my best friend, Ruth, who lives in Miami, but she was the one with the big, broad shoulders that when something went wrong, I'd be like, Ruth. So it's people like that also that are special. So thank you, everyone, for this opportunity.
And Lisa, on behalf of the board, we'd like to congratulate you for the Employee of the Month. I hope we get a photo for you there.
Okay.
Smile. There, that's a normal one.
Smile, that's too much.
Go now.
Lisa? Come back.
Gotta hug the boyfriend, yeah.
Commissioner Chappie.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you, Lisa, for the outreach that you do. I've called you on numerous occasions, not only the flora and fauna, but you've helped the community with regards to our coyote problem at times. So I really want to thank you for everything you do. You're a perfect example of the quality of employees, partners that work for the county that serve the people of Manatee County. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Lisa.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone.
Are you going to continue, Sherry?
I know. I said this is the funnest job. The next item that we'd like to bring up is the Team Award. And this is a team award for the Integrated Library System. And this is a group effort between the Library Division of Neighborhood Services, and the IT Department. So we also have those members here. Make sure that we have Robbie Taylor, Sheila Parker, Mark Wiley, Stephanie Katz, and Carmen Negron up here, along with Ava, wherever they are.
They're coming.
I'm going to say something here, and this is interesting. Robbie's behind me. Robbie's not new anymore, but he was new when we started these projects, the renovation and the new ILS system. And he didn't really know me. And so we would be in meetings together, and he would ask for a lot of things. A lot of things. A lot of things. And we'd say, well, we'll see what we can do. We'll see what we can do. But this was a big challenge, and this was one of the entire team's concepts that came forward to bring forth a new integrated library network system. And it might seem easy out in the public, but it was very difficult to bring this on. First of all, we want to still thank the Library Foundation for bringing forth half of the money needed to bring on the new system. They earned $100,000 from the Stephen King event in 2015, and then your generous contribution of $150,000 along with that, we were able to bring on this new system. But what happened was we ended up doing it right when we renovated the library, because that seemed to be the most opportune time. It was a 15-week process to work through it, and it was a everyday issue. And even after the team pulled together and worked with the consultant, they actually worked on the RFP, they worked on the contract negotiations with purchasing, and then worked with IT to get this whole thing rolled out. It doesn't stop after you roll it out. So on October 1st, when it was brought out, it probably has continued to be months and months into the project to integrate all of the elements of that. And so I want to thank them all, because it's time, effort. They did training for all of the staff and then the public, and it takes a toll on you, but then also to do your everyday job. And so I want them to know how much we appreciate them, and I want to ask Ava if she wants to say a few words also.
Welcome, Ava.
Good morning. Good morning, Commission.
Congratulations.
Yes,
County
congratulations.
Administrator. I'm really, really proud of this team. They pulled together a brand-new team, which is also, I think, something I want to highlight. This is a new group that's been put together, and they did something in 15 weeks that traditionally takes 2 full years. Really? So it is really a huge project, and it is the foundation for everything else that we do. All of the online resources that are added, the e-books, the e-audio, all those different pieces, all are part of and on top of this foundation. So I want you to be aware that not only did they do it in a really shortened period of time, but it is a very vital piece of what the library does with our reaching out to the community in a new way and making one of our doors not just the 6 brick and mortar locations, but also that virtual space where a lot of people make good use of us, including a lot of students. That's how they get their full-text scholarly journals to complete their homework assignment, all those things. So again, I appreciate the opportunity to have them as part of our team, and I can't tell you, we are also very, very proud of them. So thank you for this opportunity to bring them forward.
We'd like to have the team step forward. Robbie, if you'd come forward, and the rest of your team, Mark Wiley, Sheila Parker, Stephanie Katz, Carmen Negron. Come on, a little closer. Don't be afraid. Of course you would.
When have I not wanted to say anything? Commissioners, good morning, and thank you for having us here this morning. I just want to say 2 very quick things. One is that it's always very nice to get recognition for the hard work that you do. I think that's part of us as humans. It's part of our human nature. And we did put a lot of work into this project. We did squeeze a lot, and we had a lot of late nights, and we worked very hard on it. And I just wanted to say that we were able to do that in the time period that we had because of this great team that's behind me. And not only them, but the great team of Paul Alexander and Client Services Division Client Services Department who helped us and held our hand every step of the way. And the rest of the library team who were there to encourage us on. And so it's really these guys here who made the work easy. It was a heavy burden to carry, but with a lot of shoulders, it was actually very fun to do with them. The second thing I wanted to say very quickly is that one of the lessons I learned early in life in the United States Air Force was that good leaders lead by good example. And if we're being recognized today for this team award, I would like to take a moment and just recognize the outstanding leadership we have. As our example, the leadership of Sherry Coyer and Ava Eady and Kevin Beach and Paul Alexander and his crew as well. So it's hats off to them, and I thank them for enabling us to do this kind of work and to taking and just encouraging us every step of the way to accomplish this task that potentially touches every resident of Manatee County and beyond. So thank you very much to Sherry and to Ava and to Kevin for making this possible.
Thank you.
I think they want to do pictures. That is a long range.
Commissioner Benek, did you have?
Yeah, I just want to say, obviously, it's no surprise that this is a team award, given the teamwork that you all are showing together, and I really appreciated your comments about leadership. And I know this is going to be a recurring theme this year. You guys obviously have just won some fairly major awards at the state level, so we look forward to seeing you back. I just want to make sure that everyone isn't confused. This is a county award that's been given, but we look forward to seeing you back when you receive your state awards in front of us, and congratulations.
Congratulations.
Next, we'll have the Healthiest Weight Florida. Good morning, Jennifer.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners, gentlemen. I'm Jennifer Bensey. I'm your County Health Officer and Administrator for the Health Department. I'm here with my team today representing Community Health and Policy. You know Megan Jordan, our Director of Policy, Lisa Ahn and Kathleen Ochipa from Community Health, and 3 of our 4 PHAPs. They're public health associates from the CDC, and they spend 2 years with us at no cost to us, giving us their public health expertise. And it really is a pleasure to work with Amber and Aaron and Katie, and Carrie's back at the office doing epi and preparedness, but they're involved in community health right now, and they want to join me today in recognizing you for again being a champion of public health and community health in the state of Florida. The state Surgeon General, Dr. Armstrong, and the Florida Department of Health created this Healthiest Weight campaign. It's a public-private partnership to support public health interventions for reducing overweight and obesity for all residents of Florida. The campaign recognizes the design of healthy communities as integral to the fight against obesity. In this vein, Manatee County has again been designated as a healthy weight community champion by the Florida Department of Health. We so appreciate the different entities that have worked with us to perfect our parks and trail system, complete streets policies, support of food access interventions, for example, as progressive models for the rest of the state to use. So we want to thank you for your support, and we also want to particularly thank Deputy Administrator Karen Winden, who's always at the table giving us those extra support words and resources that we need to make things happen, as well as Charlie Bishop and his team, and obviously Sherry Correa and her wonderful staff, including the IFAS team who you met earlier. Very, very integral into community garden development, even on our own campus, your campus at the health department. Just a few of the, again, many examples, and we continue to perfect them and continue to improve the health of the community. Our county health rankings will be out next week. Those are the annual rankings that come from the CDC and the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, and we're hoping to see continued improvement and are moving up those numbers from the 20s where we're at and have been for the last few years up to what we want to be in the top 5. So thank you for your support every day, and if there's anything we can do for you, please don't hesitate to call us. Thank you.
Commissioner Whitmore.
Dr. Bensey, I want to thank you. I remember your predecessor, Dr. Brannick, and you've come in a bright of sunshine into your department. It used to be rural health took over what you used. Rural health is what you used to be years ago. And there's a lot of people that really don't still realize what you do. You do the preventative, and we hear that all the time. I know there was a physician here, our 94-year-old physician, that still does the TB clinic. Could you just quickly, because it's your time on television, to say what kind of services quickly you offer, because it's important.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And we will be presenting on March 23rd in front of the Healthcare Advisory Committee as well, giving an overview of our services. But you're correct. The legislature decided a few years ago to move the Department of Health out of primary care if there were someone else in the community who could provide those services. And we're very fortunate that rural health has that capacity and can meet those needs. Yes, our focus now is core public health. So what that means, for example, is the epidemiology, the investigations of disease outbreaks, making sure that we work with the hospitals, the providers in the community, if there are any issues at nursing homes, wherever the case may be. We don't inspect restaurants. We're probably one of the few states in the country that doesn't. But if there's an outbreak at a restaurant, for example, we would monitor and assist in that type of environment. Obviously, Zika, Ebola, those emerging infectious diseases, we take the lead working with our partners, first responders, and in this case, mosquito control very closely. We have not had any cases in Manatee County yet. The almost 50 that we have in the state of Florida all are imported cases coming from outside the United States at this time, but we're particularly obviously watching those pregnant women because it can have a detrimental effect on the newborns. Other areas, environmental health. Obviously, we do the inspections, the permits. We inspect everything from all the public pools, could be at the condominiums, at the Y, et cetera, to septic tanks, the beaches, tattoo parlors, the list goes on. And then we also have vital statistics, birth and death certificates. We work very closely with the medical examiner's office, our neighbors on our campus. We also have, obviously, the community health division. We've just finished the community health assessment and now focusing with our many partners through the Manatee Healthcare Alliance on our community health improvement plan. So continuing to build programs, integrate the existing resources. Community paramedicine is one of those innovative models that we hope we're going to be able to see a decrease in emergency room visits as a result of that. And of course, we have our clinical services. We do still provide the family planning clinic through Title X funding. We have the TB clinic, and we also do the immunizations, again, free to anyone under 19, and we have the international travel immunization program as well. Refugee is another component of that. In addition to that, we do a lot of screenings in the community. Our HIV team is in the jail every day. We're doing a lot of testing and screening throughout the community for infectious diseases such as hepatitis, gonorrhea, syphilis, chlamydia. You've seen the numbers continue to rise in Florida. We need to continue to get a handle on that issue as well. Working with the Coalitions for Teen Pregnancy Prevention, that's always been a nemesis of ours in the community. So working with that group as well. So our goal is to coordinate, to make sure that we stay a healthy community and how we can be innovative and creative to become even more engaged with our residents to improve everyone's health.
And I think a lot of people don't realize all that you do, because we do hear of some of the programs that you have, but when you say how comprehensive it is, I know on your TB clinic, you actually go look for the person if they don't show up to give them their INH, so they don't.
Exactly. We're
Spread it.
required to visit them and give them those treatments because they are, for many months, required to take the treatment. And that's a very infectious disease. So, yes, we do have to watch them. Now we're getting more technologically advanced, and we can do video DOT, video direct observed therapy as well. So that helps if they are compliant patients. One other area I forgot to mention, we have a whole separate building for our largest program, which is WIC, Women, Infants, and Children. So really focusing on that 0 to 5 population and addressing the issues from early breastfeeding to good nutrition in the young and helping pregnant women as well. And another program you'll hear a lot about in the next few weeks is our Healthy Links program. That's Health Links with the Chamber and Blake Hospital, and it's to get businesses to focus on the health of their employees. So while we're trying to reach the young population through the coalition, 0 to 5, and the schools, the parents we need to reach through, for example, businesses and wherever we can find them during their daily routines.
And one of my commissioners about heroin, do you do anything with the
Yes.
heroin?
I have the pleasure of serving as the chair of the Drug Policy Advisory Council for the state. At the request of our Surgeon General, we've been meeting for the last year under my leadership, just gave a 30-page document to the legislature and the governor regarding, again, ideas to address this issue, whether it's utilizing Narcan, doing obviously much more prevention. That's the key to all of it. But trying to determine how we can get the partners involved. The physicians play a large role in this, making sure they use the PDMP to determine if any of their clients are shopping or have a tendency to overutilize the drugs, and how we can assist them, not just identify them, but then get them into programs. So it's a very complicated project, but I think that we are seeing progress, and obviously law enforcement here has done an excellent job in trying to get the individuals off the street who are bringing it into our community.
Good job.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you again for your time, and congratulations.
Well, hold
I-
on,
and I-
Commissioner DeSabatino.
And I wanted to also congratulate you and the ladies from the CDC for doing such a great job in the community. And I know one of your predecessors, I think it was Marissa.
Correct.
She was awesome with the, complete streets and helping the bicycle and safety and trails. And so I know that you have big shoes to fill, and you'll do a great job for us. And thank you so much for your service.
Thank you so much again for your support.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, team, for being here.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good job, Benzie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May we get a picture? We want to send it up to Tallahassee.
Sure.
Okay. Oh, yeah, sure. Here we come. She's on so many boards.
Great.
All right, we're going to go ahead to our 9:30, item number 37, the Rabonia Neighborhood Plan. Sherry, I think that must be you again.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm just going to introduce to you this item. It's your Neighborhood Action Plan, and Jason Smith is here with Wade Trim, who is your consultant, and he is going to give you an update. Jason?
Thank you, Commissioners. Mr. Administrator, thanks for having me today. I just wanted to quickly come in and give you an idea of where we are with the plan, answer any questions that you do have. I'm from Wade Trim. We've been working with the Neighborhood Services Department for about 10 years now on their Community Development Block Grant Program, helping them annually in developing their action plans. We've helped in the last 2 5-year plans in developing some of the goals and priorities for the CDBG program. Sherry talked with me recently within the last couple years to get an idea of what we could do to help out the Rabonia neighborhood. The issue was that the Community Development Block Grant Program is required to assist those neighborhoods of low and moderate income. With the 2010 census in the location of Rabonia in the overall area, the Rabonia area was no longer considered a low and moderate income area, which was a surprise to some of the county staff and trying to figure out what we could do about it. So what we came up with was this neighborhood action plan. And what we can do is look at the Rabonia area in and of itself rather than comparing it to the overall region, trying to get HUD's approval for us to utilize CDBG funds in the neighborhood. We are embarking on this plan. We're starting at the process now. We conducted last night a public workshop with the neighborhood. We had very good attendance at that meeting. I want to say we had 40 or so attendees. Commissioner Bustle was there, and it was a very passionate meeting. The Rabonia neighborhood is a group of very reasonable, very passionate individuals. They're not asking for the world. They are asking for some just basic things in their neighborhood to improve their neighborhood. They're very involved. We took in a lot of input and tried to identify some top priority projects that the neighborhood wanted to see over the course of the coming years. As you all know, Rabonia is in a floodplain. We have some drainage issues there. That was one of the top priority items that the neighborhood wanted to see some improvements in. Pedestrian safety was another big item. Recently there was a death along 72nd. A young man was killed while crossing the street. There's some discussion about maybe some sidewalk installation, speed bumps, things of that nature to improve pedestrian safety. Some code enforcement items, also just general cleanup of some vacant lots, some condemned and blighted buildings, homes that they would like to see demolished and cleaned up. Other items that were discussed were just keeping it that weren't related to actual infrastructure or improvements to the physical state of the neighborhood. Just keeping an open dialogue with the county, communication, which I think that is being done through their neighborhood association meetings. I know the Neighborhood Services Department has a representative at those meetings monthly. And then through this neighborhood action plan process, keeping an open dialogue and keeping them involved in the process. And that's what we hope to do through the neighborhood action plan process. We've also had the opportunity to meet with some of the department heads. We met with Mr. Osborne in planning and Sherry and the rest of her staff to get an idea of the history and background of the Rabonia neighborhood, some of the efforts that have been made over the last several years in Rabonia. So we're taking those into account into our plan. We're also conducting a special census in Rabonia, being conducted by Cookson Research Consulting out of Winter Park, Florida. They'll be conducting a special census where they'll be doing mailings, phone interviews, and door-to-door interviews to have a Rabonia-specific census to help support our case to HUD that this is, in fact, a low and moderate income neighborhood that should be eligible for CDBG funds. Once we compile all this information, all of our public input over the course of the next, public input in our background studies over the course of the next couple months, we'll sit down with neighborhood services staff and come up with an action plan for the neighborhood, identify the priority projects that we'd like to see happen, potential funding sources aside from CDBG, try to leverage funds as much as possible, come up with some responsible parties, people that are responsible for moving forward these projects, and also come up with a potential, some cost estimates and schedule for getting these projects done. And we'd like to share this information with the neighborhood as much as possible and keep them involved. This is their neighborhood. Like I said before, they're very passionate about their neighborhood. And we do want to do right by them and prepare a good plan, an achievable plan that will be approved by HUD, that we can potentially use some of these CDBG dollars moving forward in Rabonia. I want to thank you all for your continued support of Wade Trim as your CDBG consultant. And we have a very good working relationship with the Neighborhood Services Department. And Rabonia has been something in my 10 years working with the county, has been a neighborhood that's always been on the top priority list for the Neighborhood Services Department and in the CDBG program. And I think that this neighborhood action plan is a very good thing because as I drive through the neighborhood and I look at the census statistics, it just doesn't make any sense that we can't use CDBG funds in this area. So hoping through this process we're able to correct that. And moving forward through the 2020 census, we should do what we can to work with the census to try to adjust those census boundaries to better accommodate the Rabonia neighborhood. And ultimately it's up to the U.S. Census to make that determination. But the county, through the next several years, could make some communications with them to maybe right that and have Rabonia be represented justfully. So I want to open it up to any questions or comments that you do have about the plan. So I'll just open it up to commissioners.
We have a few. Commissioner Whitmore.
Thank you. And when Larry was out for a while, the at-large commissioners tried to cover Rabonia as well as we could. And I did notice that there was an uptick in interest on different groups. And Derek Randall's in the back there, and he had brought a group together of the younger population. And I know they've made commitments that they will help with the questionnaires and get everybody so that we can get accurate data. There has been issues about it in the past, and I think the community is going to come around. And like you said, that's only one part of it. I know Sherry and I have talked, and Derek and the group and others. I know we're looking at coming up with a brand for Rabonia and signage, because even though I know where it is, sometimes I pass it every time. I mean, you know, there's 2 entrances to get there, and it's not there. And again, it's up to the community whether they want that. But from what I've talked to, they do, and they want help to be recognized. And you know, I know they're doing their farmers market. They're trying that out. They're getting the community together a little more, come up with more community involvement. There is a Hispanic portion of Rabonia that kind of always wanted to stay by themselves, but I think Derek says they're starting to come around now. So, you know, there are some that say that we aren't doing anything, which isn't true. I know monthly, Simone has been the contact person in Rabonia now. Simone has, she goes to the monthly meetings, and we have been getting reports, and I'm sure Larry can give more information. But, you know, we need to, and I'm glad it's on the top of the priority, because there's not one commissioner here, I don't think, that thinks that we really need to start putting into action some of the ideas that the citizens have and that we have with minimal cost, but neighborhood buy-in and our buy-in. So hopefully with you coming today and us bringing this on the agenda, I would like for somebody in the staff to give us an update on exactly where the projects are, you know, like the signage, because, you know, Sherry said that that was kind of an easy thing once they decided what they wanted, and a sense of place, and the sidewalks, the drainage. We've been asking that for years, and I think now it's time to put our money where our mouth is.
Amen. I'll second that. Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, and I think you mentioned it, all you have to do is ride through Rabonia, and you can tell that it should be eligible for CDBG funds. It's stunning to me, and that's the thing where residents get confused. Some kind of way they think the Board of County Commission don't understand the fact that they should be eligible. Isn't it the federal government who decided that?
Correct.
Okay. I mean, because that's why we get a big, I mean, it's common sense, and they really think we don't see the existence of what's taking place out there. And if you ride through Rabonia, you see the condition, you see the houses, I mean, you see the ditches, you see the age of the homes and stuff like that. So it's amazing to me. So when the census was taken, did someone actually walk the streets there? Or, I mean, we mentioned the questionnaire, but just the questionnaires was not filled out.
Well, I don't know that it's a matter of questionnaires being filled out, not filled out. Just to give you an idea of the overall area, the Rabonia neighborhood's about 350 people. They're in a block group, a census block group, that's 2,000 people. So it's the Rabonia and the surrounding areas. So, you know, they're taking into account, the federal government's taking into account that larger area, and they're strictly using statistics and, you know, responses to their surveys. They're not walking the neighborhoods when they conduct the U.S. Census and identifying conditions of neighborhoods and things like that. That's why our census and our plan is, you know, drilling down specifically to just Rabonia. So, you know, it's, you know, the country's a big place, so, and the U.S. Census has to conduct a census for the whole country. So they strictly rely upon statistics and survey results. So, you know, the Rabonia neighborhood, where it falls victim is it's just a smaller area in a bigger picture, and its numbers get skewed by the surrounding areas.
True.
So that's really what's happened with the U.S. Census and why they're not eligible for CDBG funding. And it's just how the boundaries are drawn with the U.S. Census. So we're trying to, you know, since the federal government doesn't have a local knowledge of Rabonia, we're trying to give them that local knowledge and explain to them, give them a snapshot of the Rabonia neighborhood to justify the use of CDBG funds there.
That process that you just mentioned, what time frame are we looking at once you go through, let federal government know that this rid is a right slumming blight? I mean, that's how you have to describe Livonia. I've been there all my life, to be honest with you. Medium, fixed incomes, people mostly retired.
Yeah.
Out there. So what's the process of going through that, educating the federal government to the fact that this is a community that's surrounded by other areas that may be doing well?
Well,
Be forgotten. I know the biggest thing they're saying, well, people are going to forget about us. They mentioned the signs. You know, the Mardi Gras signs went up. The mayor got the Mardi Gras signs went up. As soon as the Mardi Gras signs went up, the Mardi Gras was canceled. You know, and it's the second year we haven't had the Mardi Gras, which draw people globally to that community. So they would define Livonia was on the map. And if you check the map, you'll see Livonia everywhere. Known for the Mardi Gras. And so that's the little trust area that I think we got caught as the Board of County Commissioners when we really had no control of the Mardi Gras, but we got the blame of the Mardi Gras, and maybe we should have been more informed on it. So how do we move forward in letting the federal government know, and what you're doing, your company, in the time frame, 6 months, a year? I mean, what are you thinking?
Well, for this neighborhood action plan specific, we'll have this plan done by summer
Okay.
and submit to HUD for approval. They usually take about 45 days for review. Once we get their approval, then we're free to use, assuming we get their approval, which I think we will. We'll be looking at fall before that plan is approved. Now, related to the U.S. Census and getting some lines redrawn, that's a different process that you have to go through. And the U.S. Census is conducted every 10 years. So the next census will be 2020. So we're looking at years out for that to adjust census lines. But which is the reason why we're going through this process instead. It's quicker, and we can do some things. It's quicker than if we were to wait for the U.S. Census, because we'd be looking at the early 2020s before that process would be completed.
You know, those questions, this is my last question, Madam Chair. It may be directed more at you and the Board of County Commissioners. And my concern is when you talk about the census, and I know me being a former city commissioner in Palmetto, most of us never thought they counted the census right in the city. We always feel like it's at least 3,000 to 5,000 more people. And so if they're not actually going out door to door in certain minority communities, I don't know how they get an accurate count. I mean, Palmetto, you would say about 13 to 14,000. Most of us, and the mayor and all of us always talk past Shirley Group Brown that Palmetto may be 17 to 18,000. But they're not counted. And so since the county gets money off population, does other county government participate to make sure that we get the proper numbers for this county? Because we're a growing community. The community is getting more diverse. And if people are not going, they do go in certain communities, is that correct?
Certain ones, yes.
Okay, and yeah. So these areas that we're spending tons of money in, we need an accurate count because that means tax dollars to Manatee County. And so we need to make sure that they do these communities and get an accurate count instead of guessing. Because if you're cherry picking places to walk, certainly you're not going to walk in an area that you don't feel comfortable in. And so I think the next time the census come up, since we compete with other counties our size, not only statewide, but nationwide for dollars, that we need to make sure we get an accurate count instead of a guess game. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Burnett.
Yeah, Livonia is a very interesting place, and so glad that we're focusing on this particular need because, as Commissioner Smith rightly has cited, there's so much misunderstanding. Livonia is in an area that has extreme need, but it's also in an area that is developing around it, and I think that's what's caused some of the problems with the numbers. But I want to make sure I understand. You're saying that we're able to do this study with the hope that we might be able to spend block grant funds. Is that the objective? I want to make sure because we talk about changing the census and understand how difficult that is to do. But is this the process to appeal to be able to spend block grant funds in this area without redoing the census?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Okay. So because I do think it's really important to manage expectations because I hear the frustration and I understand the frustration that folks are having but as we've noted, this is an area where we don't have an abundance of impact fee revenues, which is usually the source that we use to pay for improvements. We don't have a stormwater fund. We don't have those kind of things. So we're talking about a retrofit where programs like block grant funding and some of the other funding that we might be able to get through some of the other agencies, whether they be swim funds, things that we can do to retrofit some stormwater issues. I hope that's what we're focusing on. Could you comment, because you mentioned that there would be other possible funding other than just block grants. So is that something that is also part of this study?
Well, as you mentioned, the main objective first is to qualify the neighborhood for block grant funding, and then through our action plan at the end of our, towards the end of our scope of the plan, we're hoping to find some potential other funding sources to leverage. Now, the plan isn't going to secure funding or apply for any additional funding. We're simply identifying priority projects and then identifying potential funding sources.
Okay.
So, taking that a step further, it would be up to the county to seek those funding sources. So I think that answers the question for you.
Okay, good. Well, I know, the effort that you're putting forward is very important, and I hope and I didn't get a chance to make it to the meeting, do you get a sense that people understand at this point that that's what we're doing, that we're trying to build the foundation so that we can go forward with funding? Did you think that was successfully conveyed?
Yeah, I think they understand that. They understood it, and there's also, they're frustrated. They feel like they're repeating themselves.
Mm-hmm. I heard that.
There was some frustration in the room and several passionate discussions that we had. But they did understand that this process, this meeting we had was to prepare this plan to get them eligible for block grant funding. So they don't want to hear about process and census and all that. They want to know, when are these things going to be done? When is the funding going to be available? That's what was most important to them, and understanding that this process was a step in that direction. So I think that was conveyed.
Okay. Well, thank you. I do think this is important, so I'm glad to hear that it's going forward in a relatively short time frame, and if there's anything that we need to do to make the process successful. And I just wanted to ask about your experience. Is this been a successful operation elsewhere? Have you had success
Yes.
elsewhere in
Yep.
doing this kind of a focused study?
Yes, I work with clients in 4 different states, Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, and Florida, and this is a HUD-guided approach. It's not something that we invented, as much as I'd like to take credit for it. This is a process that is an approved process by HUD. When you have a neighborhood that like Rabonia, where the numbers don't support the use of CDBG funds, this is the process you go through. So I'm confident that we'll get a favorable result from HUD, and then moving forward from there, it'll be the county's responsibility in their allocation of their CDBG funds annually to determine what projects moving forward will be funded.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner DeSabatino.
Yes, great information, and I printed out your 15-step plan, and it looks like you just completed 6 of the steps. So I want to really commend you for going through this. I want to thank Sherry and her staff for listening to us as we listen to the public of what they want, and really getting creative and going outside of the box, so to speak, and finding other alternatives and solutions to the ongoing problem. And to have 40 out of 350, that was a great turnout, so hopefully you'll get more. And hopefully when you do your door-to-door, you'll get a lot of participation, because it's really, really important that we hear from everyone. And I know a lot of people aren't home when you go, and hopefully I know you have a system, you'll leave a card and that sort of thing, and then circle back. But I just really wanted to thank Sherry and her staff and the administration and this board for allocating $21,240, and that seems such a low figure for all the work that you're going to be doing. And I'm always the one to criticize a study for a study, but this is really money well spent, and you have a really detailed plan of what you're spending. So I really, really appreciate you drilling down to cost per hour and things like that. So you really are transparent, letting the people know what you're doing, and maybe this in the future can be transported to some other areas in the county that need our help as well. But thank you all.
Thank you.
Commissioner Whitmore.
The census is, for a lot of us that know that when they have census walkers, they actually assign people, and they go into the homeless areas. I remember Marion Barnaby has done it for years. So, you know, there are certain areas in the community where they do that, and maybe on the areas that we don't think that we're getting accurate counts, like Rabonia, we have census walkers there. And if they're not filling out the cards, I know these people go around and they just make sure. So maybe that's a way to do it. But I appreciate the update, and I was expecting, not from you, but a little bit more on what exactly is going on, because I kind of stepped back. And I was just wondering if Sherry could give us just a quick update on what her department's been doing, because I know she meets with them monthly, and I know Derek's group puts stuff on their Facebook page, but I would just like to know, because people think we aren't doing anything now. We're, you know, and probably that's what you heard of the frustration, and I'd like to just hear what our staff is doing on the ground monthly and what we've been able to accomplish since we've met with these groups, if that's okay.
Well, it's not really just our staff, it's all of the county departments. So I can say that code enforcement has been out to cite those properties. We had some frustration last night about the status of them. I didn't say much about it because I wasn't completely sure where each one of them were. We do have a couple of those properties that are county surplus that are in the process of being conveyed, cleaned up. There's notice requirement, so a little time is involved, but we are working on it. Obviously not fast enough because we're not there every day, so it impacts the people. So code enforcement is doing a great job in building and development services. Mr. Schulhofer's group has been out. There was trimming done to areas that could have been done. There's still a lot more that they would like to see happen, and I think that's an ongoing observation of whether or not we can actually do more of that. Some of that's on private property, and so, you know, we're just continually watching that. Debbie DeLeon, who's in charge of our neighborhood planning, and Simone, who works directly with her, they go to the monthly meetings, and they do have an agenda item on the meeting, and they update the group. The Rabonia Community Association is fantastic. They are very active and involved, and in fact, they're going out as well, door to door, to make sure that people know. We've helped them with some flyers to know about needing to return the survey. And actually, in the 2010 census, we were contacted prior to that. As Jason mentioned, the federal government contacts counties, provides them with the data and information, and that usually goes through building and development services. They contact us for specialty areas. And I know for a fact that Debbie DeLeon, who is bilingual, went door to door in every single home and does that on a regular basis. And we try to encourage them to allow the responses, but it is difficult, as you know, it is in any neighborhood. We're observing the business district, which we'd really like to see it grow, and Commissioner Whitmore mentioned Derek Randall and the other members of his group, and they're very encouraging and taking a leadership role and working a little bit different track than the association, and so they're having their bi-monthly market, and that's going to continue to grow. One thing we have talked to the neighborhood about is that sense of place, and that's something we feel we can bring to the table. Commissioner Smith mentioned the Mardi Gras, and that is their sort of defining place. And they would like to grow businesses around that concept, and they would like to grow that area into a destination where people don't come just during the Mardi Gras, but come throughout the year. So it's one of our top assignments. We love working with those groups. Oh, also I would mention the transit stop that you placed out there is active, and we'd like to see it grow. The community center, you'll be hearing in a few weeks, will be coming back, hopefully trying to get the agency to finalize their information, and that will be the next project. So that's an update. Oh, neighborhood cleanups too, through utilities. Twice a year, there's a specified neighborhood cleanup for excess waste, and utilities is fantastic. They, instead of having it at one location, have gone to rolling, I think they call it instead, and they go to each house. And so that seems to help with a lot of the debris.
Good,
Thank you.
thanks.
Commissioner Bussell.
Well, I'd like to compliment Jason and his team on applying several new sets of eyeballs onto a very difficult situation, difficult problem. There's a lot of misinformation that circulates like wildfire around the community. And we need to make sure that when we interact with the community, we need to make sure that we're all carrying the same kind of message, because there was a frustration there last night that promises had been made and not kept. And
Really?
turns out that they weren't really promises, they were just items that had been discussed. You know, it's complicated because the things that people seem to want there, like they want ditches piped, presumably because they think that by piping the ditches and covering them up that you will do away with the flooding. But it's a much more complicated problem than that. And over the years, we've had Tom Gerstenberger and other people, Sia and other people from the county staff to get deeply into the situation there. And there's a widely held perception that US 41, when it was built, has now caused much of the problem in the community. There's a perception that maybe the culverts that go over when the highway goes over McMullen Drain, for example, or the creek, that it slows down the flow and therefore it causes flooding. And I'm not saying that that's not true, but it's doubtful that that is the problem. The problem is it's just a very low community. It's just like the city of Palmetto, and over the years in Palmetto, we had complaints all the time about flooding. Some of the things were solved, but by and large, the problems in Palmetto would require, to solve them all, would require raising all the homes about 3.5 or 4 feet, which is obviously not possible.
Yeah.
Same thing is true in Rabonia. When you have a coincident high tide and winds blowing the correct distance or direction and rainfall and the ground is wet, then you're going to have flooding, and there's not much you can do about it. Putting in pipes underneath the ground would store the water in the pipes underground, and you'd still have flooding on top of that. So as I say, it's a difficult situation, and I think Jason really fielded the questions and kept the tone going last night. I believe that people out there understand that we really want to help, and we are helping. I think that this process holds a lot of potential for at least providing a funding source. We, the commission, are still going to have the job of deciding where to spend the CDGB funds. But obviously, I think we're united in wanting to find some viable projects out there. So I'm encouraged by the meeting last night. I think that we're headed the right direction.
I'm going to take it now. You know, the last time that this came up and people came here from Rabonia, the one thing that stuck out to me the most is how polite and nice they were. There were no threats.
Amen.
You know, they didn't come forward and make the threats that we get so often as commissioners. They didn't send us ugly emails or threaten us with PACs or anything. I mean, no special interest there. They were really concerned residents for their neighborhoods. And I can tell you, and I think you can tell, Jason, from all of us up here, that Rabonia is a priority. We want to take care of them. They deserve it. They're one of the oldest neighborhoods, if not the oldest, I think, in Manatee County. We need to be there for them because they've earned it many times. So I really do appreciate everything that you've done. And as Commissioner DiSabatino said, you know, for everything that you're doing, I found the contract amazing, the price. It was amazing to me as well. I think we all agree on that. So anything that we can do to help you in your endeavor, please let us know. We appreciate you coming forward today and giving us an update. And I can understand how the people in Rivonia are frustrated. I don't blame them. I can tell you that some of us up here are frustrated with it, and we're bound and determined to get some things done there. So I just appreciate you being here today.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
So thank you. All right.
Thank you.
All right, at this point, we're going to go ahead and move forward. Thought that was a great meeting. We have a 9:45. We're running a little late. Sorry, guys. Rye Preserve Nature Center. Charlie.
Charlie and committee.
The gang.
Charlie and staff.
Whoa.
Charlie and
Gang.
volunteers. Like Sherry Courier, this is one of the times that it is a pleasure to appear before you, to represent and stand on or by the shoulders of many people who have helped advance the cause, once more, of protecting our environment, interpreting our environment, and bringing back to the people of Florida the special places.
Welcome to Rye
plants.
Preserve.
And actually,
Rye is
the
145
Rye Preserve
acres
tape,
with beautiful.
if it would stop for just a moment, will allow me to finish that part. But that's quite all right.
They were giving you
because,
a hint, Charlie.
Oscars, you're supposed
That's
to
right.
know.
The
Wrap
hook.
it up.
That's right. You know, that's very good. Mother Nature has surprises, and we do too. We're here to celebrate not only the environmental classroom that was recently had a grand opening, but also I think the whole essence of what Rye Preserve is about. It was acquired by the utilities system when I was a part of that in an effort to protect the operation of the spillway and the reservoir at Lake Manatee. And the property so acquired was assembled and turned over to the Parks Department to see if a park could be developed downstream. And indeed, that was successful. It began with Mike Pascuzzi, of persons that names from the past. But from that day forward, we've concentrated on interpreting and providing a true upland experience for Florida. We work very hard to interpret and protect our coasts. We work very hard also to interpret and protect our uplands and the history that is there. Rye is rich with that history, and the people behind me have been all part of all of that history, that hard work, and that labor. Our conservation group is not here today, but they too have placed a hard and physical effort in maintaining the properties for the special things that they are. I do want to recognize, before the tape starts, the special contributions, though, of some of the key people here. Melissa Nell, with the Volunteer and Education Division, and her staff, including Michelle Leahy and Adam Stockdale, in particular, those individuals have helped through their volunteerism, through their art and their talent in developing the interpretive signs that are there, counseling us on how to best build an environmental center. Melissa's leadership in this has been very important. I also want to recognize, and we'll have a chance again at the end of the video, to say something special about the contributions of Mosaic, and I'll hold those remarks to the end. But having said that, let me ask Melissa Nell to take the stand. Take the stand. Look at that.
Stand.
And describe. See what I'm thinking? And describe. And describe some of the wonderful educational opportunities we provide at Rye before we roll the tape. Thank you.
So good morning, commissioners and Mr. Palmer and Mr. Hunziker. Thank you for having us here today. There's been a lot of exciting kind of things happening this morning, and I'm really thrilled to continue that feeling. As Charlie said, the folks behind us all contributed to this project, but if you could take each one of them and multiply them by probably about 5, that really kind of gives you an idea of just how many people had their hands in bringing the Rye Preserve Nature Center to its creation. Everything from like the ceiling tiles that you see above them, painting them black twice, in the Nature Center because we needed to make sure that they were dark enough, to helping re-renovate the space. It's just really incredible that the entire community turned out, and even when we needed fossils, we were able to look to some of our corporate partners to support that as well. So it's really amazing that when we asked for help, it was there. And certainly with your support and your understanding that, you know, I think we all can say that coastal Manatee County has really become a destination. It is internationally known, and our beaches, and even coming into the city of Bradenton, people know about it. But Eastern Manatee County and Northern Manatee County, there are so many amazing places out there. And the uplands that are found in Rye Preserve and even out further east in Duet really have some special messages that we can use to convey to the public. Charlie mentioned the history. There's some really unique wildlife out there, and we're really looking forward to help tell that story. And already we're booked. One of the most exciting things we have coming out of this is we've partnered with Title I again. They'll be bringing their summer camp out for 2.5 weeks to Rye, and we will have about 200 children a day visiting the Nature Center. So I think, when it's all said and done, it'll be over 1,000 students who are coming there for free to really get to hear that story. And that's because of you all. We would not have been able to open this center and staff it if it hadn't been for you seeing that as a feature that we needed here in Manatee County. So I wanted to say thank you.
Great, and now perhaps the little bird that's in the viewing room can roll the tape so we can enjoy Rye Preserve.
Welcome to Rye Preserve. Rye is 145 acres of beautiful land located northwest of Lake Manatee Dam. It's home to many interesting creatures, including the gopher tortoise. Rye offers camping, kayaking and canoeing down the Manatee River, hiking trails that will lead visitors through 4 distinctive ecosystems, and holds part of Manatee County's pioneer history at the Rye Family Cemetery, the last remaining reminder of the old Rye River community. The preserve also features horseback trails, picnic areas, and a playground. Earlier this year, on January 9th, Rye Preserve became even more spectacular. After 2 years of exhibit creation, design, and many volunteer hours, staff, supporters, volunteers, family, and friends came out to celebrate the ribbon cutting of Rye Preserve's new Nature Center. Guests were able to tour the center for the first time and enjoyed a collection of games and activities throughout the preserve. This event was fun for all ages. Today, the center is used for a variety of educational programs, including field trips and family events. It is open the first Saturday of the month and to groups by appointment. The community came together to build this one-of-a-kind resource in Manatee County. And today, we just want to say thank you to all our volunteers. Your hard work and dedication is truly appreciated. We wouldn't be here without you. Welcome.
Features many of the people that have played an important role. Our new grants coordinator, Nan Summers, again, Aiden there, and Carrie in his all-star role. And all the volunteers. I also want to thank Alyssa Powers, who's not here today, but she and her colleagues, Kathleen Barnett, and of course under Rob's supervision and direction and leadership, also played an important role in tying together the phosphate story of this property and the properties of Eastern Manatee County. And in so doing, there's our important partner. You saw that wall of butterflies that represent our contributors in memorial and honorarium for those many people and the organizations that have provided assistance in moving the property forward. But central among them has been Mosaic, a phosphate company. And here today is Jackie Barron with the company and also Ed Sokolowski. Ed's particular talent here is that he was the one to coordinate the group of individuals from the company who gave us hundreds of volunteer hours to make that possible. The company itself, along with contributions of individuals, has contributed almost $100,000 towards the construction of the Nature Center alone. And with that assistance, that partnership, that we encourage, we try to ask more of in our community. It made that classroom possible. And so I'd like Jackie to say a little bit about that and recognize that contribution from the company.
Welcome, Jackie.
Thank you very much. Charlie does that to me every time. He doesn't tell me ahead of time.
That's Charlie.
Well, it was our pleasure. You know, I mean, I remember a few years ago when I had the privilege of joining the Mosaic family, Alyssa Powers and I were talking, and she said, you know, I just don't know where to go next with this project. And I told her, well, let's figure it out. It's time that this happened out here. And the growth out there alone tells you facilities and assets like that are so desperately needed as those families move in and around that area and school kids and school numbers grow in that region. So it was our pleasure really to take part in that. And, you know, pride is really the culture for us at Mosaic. And, you know, folks like Ed, you know, they make me look good really at the end of the day because they just sort of take the ball and run with it. They're excited. They always ask, what can we do? How can we help? Oh, can we bring this equipment? Oh, this could work better if we did this. Ed was concerned the exit signs were not up to safety specifications. So I believe on Saturday one week, he went and he bought new exit signs for Rye. And so it's sort of that personal touch that I really think sets the guys and gals at Mosaic apart. And so it was our pleasure to take part, and we're so proud of Rye Preserve. And so thank you for helping us make it possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
That drives at the heart of volunteerism. Today we had our Employee of the Month talk about volunteerism and the importance throughout the community. There are often times when volunteers rise to the cause, and without taking anything away from our Rye Preserve presentation today, I also want to recognize Ed Sokolowski for his contributions to humanity during the fatal tornado that ripped through the DeWitt community. Ed and his crew with Mosaic were the ones to respond and continue to respond to help the family with the cleanup, the terrible cleanup that has occurred there on the private property. You know, Manatee County could help, and we worked through the rights of way, but there was still a lot of debris that the family could not handle in that time of need on the private property, as you saw on the televisions. And Ed and Mosaic were there to provide that service to that family, and under Ed's leadership. I want to thank Ed for that service that he made.
Yes.
So with that being said, if there's any questions or any other preserves you'd like us to tackle next week, we'll be ready to go.
Let's say, keep them coming, Charlie. Keep
All right,
them
thank
coming.
you so much. We had a beautiful grand opening at Ungarelli over the weekend, and again, that family celebration was well received. I'm so proud to be part of a movement here in the county to understand and recognize these values. It's just wonderful. Thank you.
Commissioner Chappie.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody, you know, especially those volunteers. It couldn't be done without the volunteers that help preserve and protect this environment we have. And Melissa talked briefly about a special message. You know, I think the special message is Manatee does the right thing. Manatee cares about our environment, whether it be on the coastal community or the upland areas. You know, and it's not just that preservation, protecting, and the reclaiming of these. There's my West Virginia accent.
I heard it.
Reclaiming of these.
West Virginia.
It's my cousins. My
Oh.
cousins.
Okay.
And reclaiming these areas, but it's also about educating the people about what's going on, educating our kids so that we continue to preserve and protect our community. It's so important because, you know, once it's gone, and it's very difficult to scrape back what is lost. So thank you all for helping to do that here in Manatee County, and thank you for helping us do the right thing.
Commissioner Whitmore.
And I took pictures of my field trip with Charlie the other day, my 9-hour field trip with 22,000 acres of preserves. So I'm going to present that at the end. But there's a few people, and is it Carrie? Thank God. Carrie's the gentleman that we saw in the commercials. The orientation to all the new employees.
Sleeping late.
He's the star there. And Samantha is hiding in the back. Samantha Wolf, she was our animal services in adoptions, and she's doing volunteer coordination now. Damon, you had a lot to do with the Rye Preserve. right? You were in charge of it? Maybe I got your name wrong. What's your first name? Aiden, okay, I knew it was, okay, I was close, but okay. But Aiden was the one that actually took that on, and I just think he needed to be recognized. And then we have Nan in the back, the new addition, that we all met in Tallahassee, and she's the grants writer, and I guess what I hear, she's getting grants that we hadn't even thought of, so
Nan,
congratulations,
go
go Nan.
Yeah.
And she's from Disney World, her past history, she worked at Disney World for a long time, public relations and stuff like that, so you got a well-diverse team here, and thank you, and make sure you use Kerry for any more commercials, he was a star.
Commissioner Benak.
Yeah, I was so glad I had the opportunity to go out to Rye Preserve and walk around and walk on the trails and get back and look at what I call the high banks along the river there, along the Rye Creek. It's just incredible. So I'm glad you did this today so that people are watching and will know what's out there. It's really a very unique area, and like was said by Jackie, that that area is growing. But this is a real opportunity to see the real Florida, to get back there, to see the birds, to see the animals, and the history. I was able to speak with the descendant of the Rye family. He was so proud to have this recognition and told us the story about, how things were there when he was a kid. So thank you for all the work that everyone's done in recognizing this small jewel in Manatee County, and I encourage everyone to go out there and walk around. It's a great place to get away and be quiet and be back in the woods and enjoy nature. So thanks for all you do.
I only have one last thing to say. Charlie, you can't leave yet. I did that on purpose. Guys, the volunteers, Manatee County would not be where it is today without the volunteers. And I just hope you realize how important you are to this community and our sponsors, especially the ones with Rye. I know Mosaic, I know that SMR was involved, and I think they donated some fossils, okay. It's a group effort, and it starts with staff and with Charlie, and it just goes right downhill, and it really encompasses everyone working together to accomplish what you did with Rye Preserve. So a big thank you from me, from the whole board. There'll be so many from the county that get to enjoy this, and it's really because of you. So a big thank you to everyone. Thank you.
Good job, guys.
All right, we have one proclamation.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner DeSabatino, a second by Commissioner Whitmore. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. No. All right, it is unanimously approved, so we'll move forward. March for Meals Month.
Mary Ann.
This is a real honor for me to be able to do this proclamation today. Meals on Wheels has helped my family in many ways in the past, and I am forever grateful. With that being said, whereas on March 22nd, 1972, President Richard Nixon signed into law a measure that amended the Older Americans Act of 1965 and established a national nutrition program for seniors 60 years old and older. And whereas Meals on Wheels America established the March for Meals campaign in March of 2002 to recognize the historic month, the importance of the Older Americans Act nutrition programs, both congregate and home delivered, and to raise awareness about the escalating problem of senior hunger in America. And whereas the 2016 observance of March for Meals provides an opportunity for support Meals on Wheels programs that deliver vital and critical services by donating, volunteering, and raising awareness about senior hunger and isolation. And whereas Meals on Wheels programs, both congregate and home delivered, have served our communities admirably for more than 40 years. And whereas volunteers for Meals on Wheels programs in Manatee County are the backbone of the program, not only delivering nutritious meals to seniors and individuals with disabilities who are at significant risk of hunger and isolation, but also providing caring concern and attention to their welfare. And whereas Meals on Wheels programs in Manatee County provide nutritious meals to seniors throughout the county that help them maintain their health and independence, thereby preventing unnecessary falls, hospitalizations, and/or premature institutionalization. And whereas Meals on Wheels programs provide a powerful socialization opportunity for millions of seniors to help combat loneliness and isolation. And whereas Meals on Wheels programs in Manatee County deserve recognition for the contributions they have made and will continue to make to local communities, our state, and our nation. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Manatee County, Florida, that March 2016 shall be known, designated, and set aside as March for Meals Month in Manatee County, Florida, and urge every citizen to take this month to honor our Meals on Wheels programs, the seniors they serve, and the volunteers who care for them. Recognition of and involvement in the National 2016 March for Meals can enrich our entire community and help combat senior hunger and isolation in America. Adopted with a quorum present and voting this 8th day of March 2016. Oh.
County Commissioners, thank you so much on behalf of our staff and all the clients in Manatee County, and of course our volunteers. Thank you for this recognition. Coincidentally, we talked a lot today about volunteers. Today is our annual Volunteer Appreciation Luncheon, so the timing could not be better. We will share this with them today because we could not do what we do without them. And we thank all of you who are going to join us at the week of the 21st to deliver that meal to that homebound senior. So thank you again. This is wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Robin has a question or a comment.
Madam Chair, I just want to thank you for, I know you've been involved with this organization for many, many years and we're on the board. And I had the privilege of accompanying a gentleman who delivered some meals a year or so ago.
Good.
And it was just so rewarding to see the people plan on them being there at a certain time for this meal, and it's so important to their day, as you said, the socialization, just knowing someone cares about them, someone's looking in on them. So I really do. Wonderful organization and so coordinated, and just can't thank you enough for all you do in the community.
Thank you, Robin. And it's so true. The person who delivers that meal may be the only person that they see in their day, and it means so much to them. So thank you, and we look forward to having you volunteer again in a couple of weeks. So thank you so much.
Commissioner Benak.
Yeah, and I look forward to doing it again also.
Yes,
I've done it the last couple of years, and it's really been wonderful to get an opportunity to get out and talk with people and accompany the volunteers that work so hard and hear about everything they do. And many times there are people that just moved to this community. But I encourage everyone to look at the opportunities. You know, my brother-in-law just moved down from Michigan, and he's helping out in the warehouse because I said, get out, do something. Our retirees are such a great resource that we have here. So, and you do have a great organization. So I encourage people to go to Meals on Wheels, see where they can use you and be put to work. It really is a wonderful opportunity to see the people in our community and help them out. And they're so grateful, and I really enjoy it. I wish I could do it more. I tend to be a little busy, but I do appreciate it.
We wish you could do it more, too.
After Saturday, you'll have a little more time.
After Saturday, yes.
We heard Manatee Cares, and that really is an understatement because Manatee does care. We did want to also mention our fundraiser coming up in April called Tropical Nights, which is going to be out in Lakewood Ranch. We encourage you all to come and join us because that is our annual fundraiser to help to continue these programs that we offer in Manatee County. And the numbers are growing, as you know. More people coming to our beautiful community and our county. So we need to keep this program going. Thank you again so much.
Commissioner Whitmore?
And I just wanted to, also, they started a program, 4 or 5 years ago, on residents that are feeding their one meal they get a day to their animals. And they started a program, and the only reason why I'm stating this is because people do watch it, that when you do get meals, if you have a cat or dog, it's on your questionnaire now. And they will provide food so that you're not giving your meal to your animal, which most did.
That is correct. We don't want our seniors who consider their pets their families to make sure that the family is fed before they are. So we do provide the pet food, and also we have 2 options. So if somebody doesn't care for beef or they prefer a vegetarian option, we have options. So we try to accommodate every situation, including the pets. Yes.
Thank you.
That's great.
And that's everybody, so thank you so much. We really appreciate everything you guys do.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, John. Mr. Vice Chair, thank you. Moving right along, we'll move to the consent agenda. Are there any items to be pulled from the consent agenda? I see everybody reaching for their buttons. Commissioner Banat.
Yeah, I would like to pull number 21.
I'm glad you said that because I was going to pull that one. Commissioner DeSabatino.
Nothing pulled. I just want to actually just ask a question on the children's services funding, the $40,000. I think it's a great cause. Do we need a budget adjustment from that budget because the money coming out of reserves? So that's just something the county administrator can probably just touch on real quick. 26, great job. We're putting in the sidewalks to Roulette, and I know we were committed to doing that and looking at a lot of other schools. And, you know, when I was at the Bay Shore, when Public Works and Sherry Corrier's team are working on sidewalks to the schools, that they are working one-on-one with the people from the school board as well, to asking them what their priorities are. So that's a great job. 30, voters ride free on election days. Very cool. And shout out number 13, another project coming on board, and Project Action, locating a corporate operation here and creating a potential of 79 new jobs over 5 years at 150% of the average wage. So that's very, very cool. Great shout out to Sherry's team again. Thank you.
All right, so right now then we have 21 being pulled and 16 and 17 are deferred. Commissioner Whitmore.
Number 27, Glenn Jubilina keeps, I guess this one was on the Bradenton Herald under the blogs, and he mentioned again, and I finally responded, I usually don't respond to him, about all the write-offs every month. And I corrected him that we write it off, it goes to a collection agency, and we get about 67% collection return. And I would just ask Ed, if you could please make sure that number is still correct, and also if we could put that on our government channel or something, that how good we do on getting back our collections, because he just won't give up. And I said, you know, we've told you a million times, but I guess you're not going to address this on here. And it's people, if you don't respond, people believe it, and it's not true. I mean, it's totally not true. So I'd like a current amount, even of the write-offs, what % we do receive when it does go to collections, if you don't mind.
Will do.
Thank you.
That's a great question. That's good. All right, and Robin, the couple of questions that you had, do you want to go ahead and get those addressed now? I do believe.
Where are we? Robin, oh.
On the CSAB funding, the advocate is funded through the normal budgeting process, so we don't have to do a budget amendment for that. It's already been budgeted to that specific.
What number are we on,
That
guys?
was 11.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Piggybacking up on Commissioner Whitmore, could staff give me walk me through the procedures of the collection process? I don't, not here, privately in my office. Update me on from A to Z. I know I had discussed this before. As I go to the state meetings and stuff, there's totally other options that are used also to collect. And I guess when we say collection agency, kind of throws me back because some of them out there are just really kind of harsh. But if somebody can walk me through that, staff not here, we can set an appointment and kind of walk me through. And also to find out, like Commissioner Whitmore, are we collecting that amount of money, and what's the process, how they collect it? I mean, how they making phone calls? I mean, I would like to be updated on that. And also when the contract that we have expires and what's all in the contract, if I can have a copy of that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Absolutely. All right, well, I'm going to go to citizens' comments at this point on consent agenda items only. And that is items 8 through 32. If there's anyone in the public that would like to come forward, please do so at this time. Not seeing anyone, I'll close public comment. Move on down. What is the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right.
With the exception of
With the
item
exception.
number
Thank you.
21 and the ones that are
16 and 17.
And then the change to
16?
12.
You put it 16?
No.
16
They're
is
deferred.
being deferred.
16 and
according to
17
our-
are deferred. All right, so we have a motion, and I'm sorry, who made the motion?
I made the motion with the
Commissioner
with the
Chappie?
appropriate changes.
With the appropriate changes, Commissioner D, who made the second?
Commissioner
Benak.
Commissioner Benak, okay. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. It is approved unanimously. Public Safety Animal Services Advisory Board. And
This is the last position to be
Yes, it is.
appointed?
No, there's
I didn't see
two.
Robert.
Two?
There's two
Yeah,
positions.
there were, we
But one, they haven't filled yet.
yeah, appoint the lay, or the.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Bob Smith, Director of Public Safety. So in January, you appointed 5 members to our Animal Services Advisory Board. There were 2 vacancies remaining. 1 vacancy was for the veterinarian position. 1 vacancy was for the volunteer position. We've continued to recruit. At this point, we have no qualified applicants who have come forward for the volunteer position, so we'll leave that recruitment process open until we get someone to come forward. We do have before you 2 candidates who meet the qualifications for the veterinarian slot on the Animal Services Board, Dr. David Doyens and Dr. Tejbir Santu. So those are the 2 candidates who meet the qualifications for the volunteer slot, or for the veterinarian slot.
All right, we have 2 applicants, 1 position. Commissioner Whitmore.
I'd like to nominate Dr. David Doyens.
Oh, Commissioner Benak.
I just have a question about Dr. Doyens. Is he currently serving on the Animal Service Advisory Board?
So Dr. Doyens was the last remaining of the Animal Services Board that existed previously. His term had not expired, but when the resolution came forward to reestablish the Animal Services Advisory Board, that required him to reapply if he was interested in keeping his position.
Right.
Okay, so he has been serving, but he wasn't necessarily serving as the vet, is that correct?
Right.
Correct.
Okay, but he is a vet, and now he wants to serve in that capacity, and would he be eligible for a different seat under our new resolution?
He would not, no.
Okay.
It would have to have been serving in a marketing or some other type of
Okay,
position, or have adopted, or he doesn't, so he's.
okay. All right, so clear.
Any other nominations? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and take a vote. Those in favor of Dr. Doyens, please raise your hands.
It's unanimous.
I think he's made it. All right, Robert, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, that was easy. Port
Oh, no,
Authority,
let's
do
do
we
that
have
easy.
anything?
Nothing today on the Port Authority.
Oh, we're meeting? Our
Oh,
meeting's
excuse me, yes, we are going to be the day of the Port Authority is also the day of pancakes and politics. So we decided to push the starting time back till 10. So usually pancake and politics gets over with before 9:30, so hopefully you shouldn't have any trouble
What
making
date
it.
is this, Madam Chair?
17th of March.
Is it
Isn't
the
it?
17th?
Thursday.
We need to figure,
Thursday.
we need to figure the traffic, that's why I'm asking that
Yeah.
question.
We'll just leave the pancakes at 9.
We're going to meet
Get
here
an
or
hour.
out at the port?
No, we're
At the
meeting
port.
at the port. We're having a regular port meeting.
Yeah.
We just moved the start time back till 10 o'clock because we know some commissioners like to go to the pancakes and politics. The pancake and politics supposedly ends at 9:30, but usually it gets over with before that. So, God only knows
We'll have to
where
leave
the
by 9.
legislature will be at that point and what we'll hear from them.
Right.
Well, you know, they have come to a budget. I don't know if you've looked at your emails this morning.
No.
but They do have. a
They've
budget.
agreed to a budget?
Have-
Oh,
they have
well,
agreed to
there
a
you go.
budget.
Maybe
But
they'll
don't they have
be
to fight it out
done.
now?
I don't know.
Forgot how it goes, yeah.
So that is next Thursday. That is our regular port meeting. It will be at Port Manatee, but it will begin at 10 a.m. rather than 9 a.m. Okay? Thank you for that.
Thank you. Now we'll move down to number 35, general government debt issuance.
That's a
That
fun
sounds
one.
very easy.
You probably loved it.
I was wondering when Jane was going to get up here.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is your next step in the issuance of general government debt. If you recall, in October, we had a workshop, went over the issuances that need to occur. You moved forward and approved MBS Capital Markets to go through their RFP process to establish the best alternative for your general government debt. At the current time, Bank of America has come back with a rate of 1.57%, and the motion before you right now is the next step. We will move forward and authorize the execution of summary of terms and conditions. It will allow them to move forward with final negotiations, and then it will come back before you. And if there's any questions.
Commissioner DeSabatino.
I'd like a little more of the presentation, if you could, to explain to the public how much, and then you spell out the projects, how long the terms are. And can you also include in that the prepayment clause of?
Yes, ma'am.
And this is a 10-year at a fixed rate, correct?
I believe that was the terms on the page were 5, and then it goes into the next phase for that. It's actually on page 2 of the attachment.
Okay. And could you go over that with to
Sure.
the public?
Yes, ma'am. Currently, there are 6 projects that are involved in this issuance. You have a $12 million beach erosion project, the historic court remodel that's completed, 2.4, you advanced funding on it. Renovations to the tax collector building, $3 million. A jail management system, 1.2. Detention center door upgrades of $1,065,000, and the P25 radio system of $15 million. All of these have been within the adopted CIP. This is carrying forward what we had. The years in life vary for these assets, the majority of them being 5 to 10 years. This bond issuance is 10. There's only one asset that's a piece of the radio system. The tower runs over 20 years, but everything is an average of 10. The terms of the agreement, the rate is 1.57%. It runs to 2026 is the length of the bond. The bond is repayable with 3 days prior notification. That's worked into the terms. You ask about the interest rate. The actual rate will be set 2 days before the closing, which is the norm. And it will be based upon a rate swap for 60 months. They're using the floating rate of the 3-month LIBOR. And I'm sorry, you asked me one more question.
Oh,
but-
so it's a floating rate, it's not
Yes,
fixed?
right,
Okay.
floating.
So that could go up if interest rates go up. And what's the current, what you call it, interest payment that the county, isn't it like 3 million on this a year, or?
Currently, the revenue streams that are associated with this, with the beach renourishment projects, is already set up within your budget to anticipate that 1.5 million will be coming out of your penny tourist tax for beach renourishment. The remainder, you have for the historical courthouse remodel, we have a revenue stream that the clerk has designated they receive through the state. It's funding that they receive of $275,000 a year, which will pay back that amount for their specific debt. The remainder is through the general fund. It is set up through there. Through the general fund and unincorporated, currently in your budget, you have 3.3 million set aside for the debt, for the loan payments.
Okay, is there any current debt that's sunsetting that this is replacing, or this is in addition to what we
This
currently?
is in addition to.
Okay, and do we get money back from the tax collector annex, or that was the sheriff's building because he has the child services tax?
Right, but that, you had forward funded that piece. We didn't actually borrow the child protection on that one.
Got
So that revenue stream goes that direction.
And I was just confused because you have two schedules there. Then on the bottom part of one of the attachment A, on the debt work session, you had the transportation debt issues, which were funded by impact fees. I just was curious of why that was included in this when it's really not a part of this.
The attachment A, for continuity purposes, we attached that to your work session in October. There's two pieces of it. This is the first piece, which is the general government. But the second piece is the transportation. The transportation, the only reason we added this sheet was to make sure that you saw the same sheet of paper you saw before. Only the top of it is in relation to this issuance. The second issuance will come later, probably late 17, early 18, for the issuance of the bond. What we are bringing back before you is a credit line to get through the first phases of it in order to take advantage of lower interest rates instead of borrowing everything up front, borrowing the pieces up until we get to the construction contracts.
And when will that start?
The actual RFP for the transportation credit line is going right now. So I'm anticipating when I bring this back for final signature for closing, you will start that process of letting him negotiate with this one. He actually has the RFP out right now for the credit line.
Okay, and hopefully the collection of the impact fees will
Yes.
pay this back.
Yes.
Okay.
That is the full anticipation for transportation.
The prepayment, so once we hopefully get the money to prepay some of these 35 million, is there another penalty? Because I know there used to be mortgages with penalties.
It's
and so
actually set up where should not be a prepayment penalty clause. However, that is part of the final negotiations that they're going through. Everything will come back to you completely spelled out.
Okay, thank you. You answered all my questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess my question is more to her and Charlie Bishop and the county administrator. Since we're talking about debt and we're talking about buildings, my question is, as we continue to build government buildings, are we preserving history and branding these buildings with the Board of County Commissioners, who was in office at the time, designating what date these buildings are being open for historical reasons? Are we doing that? For example, you can go to City Hall and see a plaque there. The year it was built.
You know, sir, I do not know the answer to that, but I will come back to you and.
You can go
and
to
make
the
sure.
sewer department in Palmetto, you can see the city commission and the mayor, the date it was built. So are we building these buildings and not branding them with history, dates? Who was on the board of county commission? Who was the chairman? Who were the commissioners at the time?
I will be.
That's my question.
I'll be happy to check into that for you and bring
Okay.
the answer back.
The only one we're building right now is for
The
tax
Child
collector.
Protection Agency is completed.
Excuse me?
Child Protection Agency building.
Well, that was already built.
Well,
It just remodeled, but the one across the street from the ABC.
got the one across the street coming, but also it was remodeled. But what my question is, as we continue, you go across government, it dates it for 10 years, you can come back, 15 years, you can come back. You know, who was on the board, who voted, who took the heat at that time. And so, and I know Chip Show was a big in storing on these, dating the buildings.
It's a good idea.
For example, when you build one from the ground, remodeling may be some a little different, but when you build one from the ground, it should be dated, so your grandchildren, whatever, the community would know it was built 20 years ago, so they know why you need another building. It's 30 years old, it's 40 years old, and so I would like, some answer to that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You are welcome. Commissioner Burnett.
Just don't name any lift stations after me. Kind of a joke.
It's a good joke.
That's funny.
This is an opportunity, and I'm glad Robin asked for more information, because it is an opportunity for people to, and we've asked for more information on our budget as we go along, and people need to know where the revenues go toward and what we're spending it on, because we do get a lot of questions, a lot of confusion about how we prioritize road projects and what pays for what, and what we can bond and what we can pay, how we can pay some of this. So the debt issuance on the transportation is being paid, is going to be like you said, it's going to be a bank loan, so that is something that we can apparently pledge impact fees to pay. Is that correct?
That is the plan for the entire part of 44th Avenue.
Okay.
The credit line will run up until maybe mid-17, start of 18. Whenever they get to the main construction part, which is the majority of the dollars, we'll switch it over and come back before you with bonds. But the entire money to pay it back, the debt service, we're anticipating will be impact fees.
Yeah, because, again, and I know this is something that our financial advisory group is looking at, but the limited sources of revenues that we have, this is, pretty much the picture. We have general revenues, we have tourist tax, we have impact fees, and that's pretty much it.
That would be correct.
Other groups, other government groups might have a larger variety and gives them some more options to pay for things and to charge for things in different ways. So I think that's important to note that so much of this has to come out of general revenues. I know we've been asking, for example, in the P25 radio system, asking for some help at the state level.
Sore subject.
Doesn't look like we're going to get it this year.
We're not.
Doesn't look
Sore
like
subject.
it. Yeah. So I'm glad that, we have to do this. We have to do this for the safety of our citizens, that we're moving forward. We all, I'm sure, would prefer not to issue a debt, not have to take on that obligation for the county. But it's important that we provide these services and that we do so in a way that recognizes the ongoing growth that we have in this county, and that's the only source that we have to pay for it is ad valorem tax revenue. So
Very important.
it's something that people should stay tuned to if they're interested in how their tax dollars are spent.
Very important point.
Yeah, I'm going to butt in at this point. I think last year, the county administrator, we all talked about borrowing the money to finish up 44th. And we talked about how important this roadway is to the county at this point, because it will help to take some of the traffic off State Road 70 and 64. And we really need to do that. So I'm glad to see this coming forward. The only thing I don't particularly care for is that it's not a fixed rate. And can you just, Jan, address that, please?
I'll do it.
Based upon the market and the going rates and instruments that are available, our financial advisor has brought back that this is the best alternative that they've received so far. When they go forward from here, they'll negotiate a little bit further. Oftentimes in the fluctuating market right now, it's very hard to lock down a 10-year fixed rate. However, these are bonds that are being issued. We will go back, and I can actually have Ed Bullock come back to the next meeting if you like, and go through a little bit more detailed explanation to give you that higher level of comfort of what he's suggesting.
I know that right now with the market being the way it is tougher. But I also know that interest rates are going to start going up. So because of that, I'm not thrilled. But we need this road. Commissioner DeSabatino.
Yeah, these are all good points. So it's incumbent upon us and this board to explore new funding streams. So if and when interest rates start going up, if we have other streams to pay this off. So because the $3 million will soon turn into a lot more.
Absolutely.
So we need to, $3 million in our budget goes a long way for sheriff's cars and roads and sidewalks and so forth. So hopefully we're going to forward fund this, but hopefully we'll find ways to pay it back as soon as we can. Thank you.
Quicker than 10 years, hopefully.
Oh, yeah.
County Administrator.
Commissioners, as Commissioner Benak brought up, the lack of diversification in our revenues requires us to go to general revenue, more specifically property tax revenue, to fund these capital needs. And that does a bit of a double penalty to the county, because the debt service that you see here, this $3 million from general revenue, would otherwise be available to fund your operating budget if we had another revenue stream.
Yep.
And if you think back to last summer and the issues that the board faced in trying to fund the operating needs of the county as the community continues to grow, as we indicated, 50,000 new people have moved into this county since the beginning of the recession. And the challenges are pretty steep for the board in trying to meet the needs of the community. And here we are taking $3 million that could have funded that operating budget, and we're going to use it to fund very critical operating or capital needs. You'll recall that we weren't able to meet the needs of the sheriff. If you'll just recall recently, the folks that came before you for paratransit that needed some money to meet the demands of that community, and we didn't have the money. There is just not a month goes by that you're not faced with some kind of financial challenge. And here we took $3 million that otherwise would have been available, and we're pledging it to debt service. If in fact we had another revenue stream supporting this governmental services, you wouldn't have had to do that. And that in part is why you have this financial restructuring committee looking at how it is that you fund your budget, both their capital and operating needs. And as you directed, that group will sunset May 1st, and they'll be back before you with recommendations that you might want to consider in diversification of revenues so that you can fund your capital needs as well as your operating budget. Thank you.
All right, I don't have anyone else on the board, so I'm going to, at this time, open it to public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to come forward on this topic? Seeing none, I will close public comment. What is the pleasure of the board?
Nobody wants to do it.
Nobody wants to.
Motion to approve.
Yeah, second. We don't have a choice.
We have a motion by Commissioner Chappie, a second by Commissioner Whitmore. Any discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. It is unanimously approved. Thank you, Jan. My computer is a little slow. Sorry. Public Works. Joint participation agreements for State Transit Service Development Program. Item number 36.
Good morning, Commissioners. Chad Butso from Public Works. We wanted to very briefly give you the recap. I mean, really, we're back here discussing the same topic we had on a work session, and it involves 2 joint participation agreements from FDOT for a transit service development grant. These grants were applied in 2 phases, but essentially combined, what they do is they provide 50% operating funding for 3 years for us to improve the service delivery frequency of transit on Manatee Avenue, essentially our Route 3 Manatee Avenue corridor. It currently runs at 60 minutes frequency. With the grant, we essentially double the service to reduce the headway. It's increasing service. I always get those double negatives backwards, but we're improving the service to reduce the wait time in between buses. So we're going from 60 minutes to 30 minutes with the approval of doing so. The biggest part of the discussion at the work session was how to come up with our match. We had said as we were immediately looking at that at the work session, we could restructure existing services and make targeted changes in ways that we could come up with our own half of that service match. So I skipped a point in the discussion. I want to keep everything focused. It's doubling the service. So that's roughly 9,000 revenue hours. So we have to come up with roughly 4,500 revenue hours of service to pledge that we can say, it's not efficient and effectively being used here on these routes, we're going to repurpose it and use it for these routes, for the new service development route. So technically, and I want to make this clear, technically the net on paper, when you're looking at a budget cost column, the cost will go up, but it's a net wash because the revenue that we get that back from the state grant for the first 3 years. So on the net, it's a net no cost, and that's the interesting thing. On the attachments, and that's what we didn't have at the time we were at the work session, you asked for a priority order from staff of what we think service modifications should be. And on that tab called Service Optimization and Restructuring Priorities, that Roman numeral number 1, that's my reiteration of the service costs and effort of our match, 4,500 revenue hours of service. And then we get into Roman numeral number 2. This is an improved service reliability and connectivity. That's one of our principal points. This is essentially restructuring routes, and Bill and Ryan know all the details, but this is your overview of Route 99 is our current off the island, the only route that serves at 30-minute frequency. It has the same trouble at certain times of the year dealing with traffic because it goes all the way over the bridges and into Palmetto, up to the Palmetto station. Our proposal is to not change that service level into North County, but restructure all the routes that serve in North County and turn Route 99 around at downtown Bradenton Station. So between Route 1, which goes from Palmetto out to the Ellington Outlet Mall, Route 13, which is a circulator in and around Palmetto, and what we called our North County connection, the Rabonia, the 3-day-a-week service route that extends a little bit further even to the north, as far north as Rabonia and back Holy Cross and area. Restructuring those to still provide service over those areas, but between the combination of those three, we still maintain the 30-minute connectivity over the bridge into Palmetto. But on those chances of when traffic would be heavy, it's not affecting the rest of the remaining system on Route 99. Route 99 has a much better chance to stay on time. So that was a first thing. We feel business-wise it's something we want to recommend once we do our public outreach and something we'd like to do anyway. It has an approximate savings of 1,100 hours. And then we get into some of the other alternatives that have significant hours. It's always not necessarily a popular topic to bring up, but we do talk about a Longboat Key. It's one of our lowest ridership routes. It is what it is. What's not so clear on that route, changed Longboat Key service to 2-hour frequency. That's kind of veiled. That requires Manatee County to remove itself from the Longboat Key service is what that is. We have one bus in service. Sarasota has one bus in service. That cost of that one bus in service is that 4,900 revenue hours on there. I'm not sure if that's a high probability for you. Number 3, under other route structuring. Number 2 is just, that's a systemic thing that we're going to do. We've called our Route 6 all the way from Coquina Beach out to Lecon. We've called that all Route 6 at the moment. We thought that'd be a great thing. Ridership on the east side of that route, the new service this past year wasn't really what we anticipated. For future planning and other things, we just want to break that up because schedules will become easier. Then it becomes, if you did want to go all the way out east, you just have to make a transfer on a bus at DeSoto Station, and it allows us to do some other schedulings. That's something, there's no net on hours on there, it's just another structure thing we'd really like to do. But the other end, because we break that up, and the low ridership that's occurred on that area that's east of downtown, heading out to Lakewood Ranch, potentially look at restructuring that. I mean, we break it and then potentially take it from 60-minute frequency to 90-minute frequency, and that's something that restructures it. Instead of requiring 2 vehicles, it only requires 1. And there's a lot of hours that get saved on that restructuring, and potentially not even going as far as we only go as far as the interstate. We've realized some ridership from MTC on a regular basis. It's not the same kind of college as State College of Florida where there's hour-by-hour changes of students, but we still do get some ridership. We haven't realized the same ridership that we kind of tried to serve LECOM with, so we're kind of We've seen ridership at the Walmart, the new Walmart at I-75 and State Road 70, so we're proposing ending that route at that point. And that's where you get the, I haven't put my glasses back on, I'm trying to remember the number, 4,200 hours savings for that particular one. So, and then they get into some smaller and more business-targeted items. The point of this meeting today and the approval of the JPAs is not for you to say, make the cuts here or make the changes here. It's to give you the confidence that there are savings is to be found that would meet this process to meet the match of the JPAs, because we're asking you to sign off on the JPAs, which commits us with DOT to implement this program and work with that service enhancement on Route 3. Pending that, that was kind of the big overview of a lot of attachments that came with the item. If you have specific questions, I'm sure Bill and Ryan will be more than happy to try to answer those for you.
Chad, I'm on the board. Seems I'm the first one. Real quick, just for the public, refresh our memory on the ridership, Route 6 going out to Lecom.
Specifically, I'll have to have Ryan, he's a lot more familiar.
Ryan.
During the process of where we instituted this, we've got most of a year where we had our automatic passenger counters, so we feel very good about our data now.
Okay.
Of our ridership.
And I know I'm pretty sure I still recall what you had mentioned in the workshop, but I just want the public to really have a better understanding. On the ridership going out to Lecom, what were you seeing? How many per day?
Ridership is pretty low. We're looking at about 4 or 5 legitimate persons on a daily basis.
Okay. And just to remind the public, basically that route going out to Lecom, how much was that going to cost the county to keep that going as it's been going?
Well, it's 2 buses that we added for that extension out to Lecom. It's roughly, I think it's about, what did we say here? It's about 700 hours for one day. I think we're looking at about 4,200 hours, I think, for that one vehicle. Cost is roughly, what, about 200?
Well, if we ran that, at 4,200 to drop the bus, I mean, for the hours, to be able to run the route with a single vehicle instead of 2, is what we're proposing to change. Now, I'm trying to say, Ryan, we're estimating this on the fly from Walmart out the rest of the way to Lecom percentage. That's a 40% change of the route and extension, because it's quite a distance still the rest of the way in addition out there. So
To put this in simple terms, there's 4 vehicles on the route. We'd remove 1, so it's about 25% of the cost of the entire route.
And I knew that's where you were going, and I just...
$1,000.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch base and make sure that the public understood, because, you know, it's taxpayer money, a lot of it. So I just wanted to make sure that they understood why we might be making a change there. I see Ron Scholhofer coming. Oops. Oh.
That doesn't work.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, we're going to do a quick calculation.
Okay, all right.
A better number would be, and you'd be in the $300,000 route.
Okay.
For what we're going to save on the 4,200, and if I said that was 40% of the route, hang on. I mean, we're a savings reduction of on the order of almost $150,000 for that extension.
All right, thank you.
From the Walmart the rest of the way on the route.
Commissioner Whitmore.
Just a couple things. The North County, it sounds like your plan still is going to be intact. It's just 99 is going to stop in Bradenton, which that's our feeder from Sarasota to Bradenton. The North County, will it still be whatever amount of minute service it is? Is it 30 minute? It'll be an hour then, right? Or
the intent is to maintain the 30-minute frequency
Good.
between downtown and Palmetto.
Got it.
So we can restructure this service, but one of the core principles was to maintain that frequency, even though it's not the 99.
And
So the 99 could maintain its schedule,
Yeah.
And we could have connections from Palmetto to downtown.
And we've all held out, I know, since we started the trolley to Lombok Key, we've held out. I look at the ridership every month, it's about 6,000 or 7,000, no matter, almost what time of year it is. Probably get a few more tourists during the season, but not a lot. I know it costs a lot of money, and I think what you're proposing is that we completely back out and just let Sarasota do it, and it would be 2 hour. And that's what it used to be before we started the trolley on the entire island, and that's why our ridership was 63 a month. But I understand, and now it's 500,000. But I do understand that financially, I don't think the county can keep doing this unless we can figure out a creative ways to do it. I don't know why. I mean, you still got 6,000 or 7,000 people a month that are using it. Is it cheaper to use a transit bus versus, a van versus a transit service? I don't know, but, or maybe Lombok Key and Sarasota, we can all get together. I mean, we've held out for quite a few years ago now, and I know we need to improve our services at other places. So I know that dialogue's coming, but maybe somebody can think outside the box to still address those 6,000 or 7,000 that ride it every month. That's a hard decision.
You remember that we have an interlocal agreement, so any changes we make impact Sarasota, so we'll have to revisit the interlocal.
Exactly.
There may be another option. So as Chad mentioned, this really today is just to kind of summarize the way we're thinking, and we're looking at our metrics. There are options out there as we get into public involvement, we coordinate with SCAT, that we may not have thought of, and we can bring that back to you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Benak.
Yeah, I think that the Longboat Key, obviously, as we move forward with this, we'll have to reach out to them and have conversation as we get into the process where you're going through the analysis of, right, you have to have a public process to change this level of service, right?
There will be an extensive public involvement process. We'll come back with refined proposals that you will adopt.
Okay.
We'll recommend adoption, let's put it that way.
Yeah, just want to make sure that we do reach out to Longboat Key, because I know they've talked to us many times about concerns about, the service. And I just want to make sure, because I was a little confused on the number 3, route restructuring truncates State Road 70 services at Walmart, I-75, 90. So we're talking about not having a bus that goes past Walmart up to Lecom.
Correct.
But there is another route that you can take to Lecom, is that correct?
Not at this point, no. If we truncate that service, then it would stop right there on State Road 70. The thinking is State Road 70 will continue to develop over time. The portion of the service that's really not productive is when you go up Lakewood Ranch to Lecom. We're just not realizing the ridership on that segment of the route.
So we don't have any kids that take the bus. I know that some high school kids I'm talking about, that some of them do. I see a bus stop on right by Manatee High School. I've unfortunately gotten stuck behind a bus a couple times, and there's so many bus stops along that route right there.
Commissioner Benak, there may be a handful of high school students that use the bus. I know I've received one phone call from one parent asking about a bus stop near their home. So I don't know what percentage of students, high school students, ride that route.
Okay.
But can't say that there are none.
Yeah, because that's a lot of kids out there. It'd be nice if they would look at using the bus a little bit more. I just wanted to make sure also, because the other thing that we were very much encouraged to do was to provide bus service to MTI. So we will continue to have bus service to MTI on a 90-minute frequency. What's the earliest bus that you could take to get to MTI?
I think right now we go in onto the campus about 7:45. The classes start about 8 a.m.
Okay.
And we designed that service to get students there on time for class. And then we come in the afternoon and pick up on campus, I want to say about 2:45, 3 p.m., whenever class is let out at MTC.
Okay.
And we'll maintain that as well as we
So
move
we're not
forward.
talking about changing that service?
No. We'll maintain, definitely the connection to MTC is important. Again, the expectation of ridership, it's not there yet, but we'll keep that as part of the Route 6, if that's the option that we move forward with.
Okay.
Commissioner Bustle?
Yeah, I remember that during the early days of LECOM, maybe the dental school, I forget, I think it was the dental school, they were very very passionate about getting transit service out there.
Yes, they were.
Should we reach out to them? Should we increase our marketing to somehow to LECOM and say, you know, what's going on? Why don't you use our service?
We do have contacts. We can touch base with them. We are going to reach out. There's going to be a public outreach process. If we move forward here with approval of the JPAs, they're on the list to communicate with as we look into the different options.
One second. Ron Schulhofer, Public Works. I remember those conversations with LECOM, but their thrust wasn't their students. It was they hoped that they were going to open up the community to come out to get free dental work. That hasn't happened.
Oh, that's right.
That's why we ran the bus. It was for the residents to get out to them.
The home, yeah, so they could get
They
practice.
never thought the students were going to jump on the bus.
No.
But we reach out to them, but it wasn't about the students. It was about the community.
Patients, right?
Yes. And that hasn't occurred, so. And I don't know what their curriculum is, whether they can fix people free as, you know, constantly or whatever the case is, but it
I
doesn't
believe
appear
there
that
is a
way.
charge.
There is.
And that may be why we're not getting any ridership out there, so.
Yeah.
Exactly. Commissioner Bustle, did you have anything else?
Nope.
Okay, Commissioner Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You mentioned State Road 70, the route on State Road 7. Have we considered that there's about 6 new developments taking place there? In that area, you got the neighborhood Walmart, you got, I believe, Wawa, and you got several businesses that's been established, so that's going to bring a lot of traffic and a lot of people that may want to ride the bus. Have we considered that? I mean, on both sides of the road, you got the new development coming in. It look like they may open pretty close to the same time.
Oh, come on, Ryan.
Yeah, I can speak to
He's
that.
better.
Surprisingly, the Walmart is actually the biggest generator of traffic on the buses. That new Walmart out on 75 and State Road 70. Above LECOM, above MTC, above any other stops along that stretch.
Okay.
So-
And as you continue to go down that road, I mean, both sides of the roads, all the way to the interstates, now have development taking place. And so I can see the ridership increasing drastically, I mean, the next 3 to 4 months, whenever the other establishment starts to open their doors.
Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of development along that stretch, particularly on the west side of the interstate. We thought that it was going to develop more quickly. It just hasn't to date.
I think this is a dynamic process. We'll be back. We're constantly monitoring the activity and the ridership. And so I don't think there will be a year that goes by that we won't be back in front of this board analyzing what's going on, where the development patterns are, where are people showing up, and adjusting the route structure accordingly.
I was going to actually bring that up. I'm glad you said it. Let me ask one more question on the 4 or 5 people that go out. Do we know, are they generally going to LECOM or are they going to MTC? On Lakewood Ranch Boulevard?
No, these are folks getting off and on at that LECOM facility.
Okay.
So from what I understand and speaking to drivers, there are folks who are going there to get dental work. They're not students or employees of LECOM.
So 4 or 5 a day? Is that correct?
On average, correct.
Average. Oh,
correct.
Okay. I think the county administrator probably hit it right on the nose. You know, we've tried it. We're not quite there yet. And it is something that I know that we'll continue to look at. So, Commissioner Benak.
Yeah, just so I understand again, you said that obviously we're voting to pursue the grant funding, which makes an obligation for us to provide our share of the funding. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to pick from this list some things. What was the total number of hours we needed to come up with to balance the budget?
4,500 hours is what we were looking for. And like you say, the only agreement that you're doing today, that's the true action, is to agree together to sign the JPAs, to execute the JPAs with the state, to accept the grant. How you ultimately fund the 50% match is totally up to us. The DOT has no input on how that happens, but once we do sign it, I mean, we're somewhat obligated to implement the new service.
So if we adjusted just for example, adjusted the Longboat Key trolley frequency to every 2 hours with 4,900 hours, that would be it?
Practically.
No?
Because nobody would write it.
But that's also the one that we have to coordinate with Sarasota. It is with an interlocal agreement. A lot of these things have the 99 change, the Longboat Key has a coordination with that. If we would do any targeted individual run adjustments, even on Anna Maria, like the super early morning runs or something like that,
Yeah.
I still have to coordinate with DOT because there's a separate agreement with that grant on there. But that's why we're saying it's not the action today, it's to say this concept of structuring in a more business-like manner is a good plan, and that makes sense to fund our added service.
Okay, thanks.
And Chad, you are going to be in touch with LECOM, is that correct?
Absolutely. I mean, the whole corridor, and that's one of the main reasons we don't want to back out of the corridor as a whole, while we would potentially be in front of LECOM. The 70 being a major commercial corridor, it wasn't previously served by transit, so we understand those don't grow immediately, but it still didn't meet even our lighter expectations. Somebody trying to?
What we want, Ron Schulhoff, again, Public Works, what we want to leave here today with is the board agrees either to reject these JPAs or accept the JPAs. If you accept the JPAs, there's a cost to you, 4,900 hours, 4,500 hours. How we get to the 4,500 hours, we gave you some options to do that. There's strings attached to a lot of these. Now, when we go tell the folks in Sarasota and Longboat Key, Sarasota, you're carrying the weight, you're carrying all the weight on Longboat Key now. I'm sure there's going to be phone calls, talk about, if your resolve is where you can use that one, you can use that one. If not, then we have other options, but we have to come up with the 4,500 hours, because when you agree to accept this JPA, we got to pay the bill. And I'm very proud of my group for coming up, of knowing we're in tough economic times. I think that's the correct way to say that. Not quite broke, but we're struggling to try to make ends meet, like all households are. My folks found a way to try to better the service, take some congestion off the road by increasing service without dipping into the coffers. We just repurposed some hours that we have and the people already on the books to pay the bill. So I'm very proud of what they've come up with and these options. But now the options are up to you, board.
Ron?
Sir?
What's the dollar equivalent of 4,500 hours?
What's that math figure?
In the board agenda packet, we said that 6 operators cost approximately $283,000. So you split that in half, and that's roughly your 4,500 hours, okay? That's just an operating expense.
The fully loaded cost?
Yeah. Well, not fully loaded in the sense that includes me and administration, but fully loaded in the sense that includes all of our operating expenses.
Was that, you just said operators? You've got maintenance, you've got...
Yes, and we've accounted for that as well, yes. I just wanted to make clear it doesn't include administration because that becomes a higher rate.
And the number was again?
It's $283,000 per year, and half of that would be our responsibility. We have a grant funding for the preventive maintenance, and we have funding also for the fuel. So we've got those expenses covered, and you remember we talked about that in the work session with a little matrix. The one other point that I wanted to make while I'm up here was there is an opportunity right now with SCAT because they've got some operators that they've moved from paratransit to fixed route. There could be a possibility that when we talk about what we're trying to do on the north end of the 99 in combination with what we'd like to do with LBK, that it might just work for them operationally because they've got that excess today that they didn't have before. So it's really a strategic time to talk to them about our interlocal and how this may benefit them and us as well.
Commissioner Whitmore.
And I remember before LECOM, the dental was being built, we had talked, and I was working at the homeless, and we were trying to figure out a way to get the homeless clients out there for the dental school and also the lower income. And, at one point, it was suggested, because the transit was way far in advance, we weren't thinking about that then, that maybe LECOM, because they do go over to One Stop also at certain points, why they couldn't just have a van, because they need the clients to get their students educated and practice and before they get out for their education. So that's another option. If there's only 4 or 5 a day, there has to be a way that hopefully Lecon can figure that out. And maybe we could help them figure that out, because that's what was discussed a long time ago, that may be a way to get the clients up. But that's when we were also thinking about that they were going to do it for free. But we'll see.
A van is an option. That's a good idea.
Let me clarify a little bit what the county administrator asked the question about fully burdened rate. What we have to match is operational cost. That's the match. That's why that's the dollar is an operational match.
Got it.
All right, I don't see anyone else on the board. At this point, we'll open this to public comment. Anyone in the audience like to come forward on this topic? Not seeing anyone, we'll close public comment. What is the pleasure of the board?
Motion to adopt resolution
Second.
R-16-037.
Second the motion, Madam Chair.
All right, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Chappie, a second by Commissioner Smith. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. It is approved unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, moving right along. Back to item 21. What? Back to item 21. All right. We're going to go back to item 21. I guess it's soon enough. That was pulled. Execution of contract for sale and purchase for warranty deed with Southern Manatee Fire and Rescue District for property located at 5228 45th Street East. Welcome, guys.
Good morning, Madam Chair.
Morning.
Sia Melanezer, Public Works, and I got property management with us too.
You want to know why I pulled it?
Wondering, yes, please.
Okay. Answer that, or do you want me to?
Sure.
It's the same.
I'll go ahead and say it. I looked at this item, and I didn't see an appraisal associated with it, and so just in my untrained eye, I looked at the property that we need to acquire, and while I understand that the probably along 45th is a guess, there was a reservation of right-of-way that we need to purchase to make that project work, and there's a square footage associated with that. I get that. But then to have that same square footage cost applied to the parcel in behind a fire station, and my math, coming out at $143,000 an acre, I had a little bit of a problem with that.
Second.
I'm wondering why that parcel behind a fire station would have that same high cost of $3 a square foot assessed to it. Seemed a little outrageous to me. And I didn't see any kind of a, like I said, a appraisal or anything to justify that. You know, and I read the fire department's letter that they were told they'd get $3 a square foot, and they put it in their budget, and God bless them, I understand that, but I don't see the value for that parcel behind a fire station having to pay that much.
I'll try to answer it. Charles from Property Management is over here to, you could correct me if I'm wrong, my recollection. First of all, including fire department, there's 2 other adjacent parcel. One of them was on the agenda today, and the one before that next further north to that was a few months ago on the agenda. One of them was 380 a square foot, if I recall right, and one of them has 3. This particular fire department parcel itself, we've been in negotiation and discussion with them for over a year. Back in the time when Mr. John Agostinelli was heading the property management, at that point, back then when they had the appraisal on the next door, he had done his own number crunching based on the next door property numbers for the appraisal. He had offered through an email to the fire department the $3 a square foot. And the $3 a square foot, again, had come from the next door properties. And that has been on their email system, if you want to call it official offer or not, I'm not quite sure how to say it, but it was the offer that was made several months ago when John was with us. And And we had no other recourse other than the appraisal that we had next door for $3 a square foot and $3.80 a square foot. So the $3 was in a ballpark for this fire department parcel. And I may add, I hit your engineering, I need this property, ma'am.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, I can probably add a little bit to the exchange here.
Yes, sir.
If and when you're ready for me to weigh in.
We're ready.
Okay. I've done some number crunching here this morning in anticipation of this item being, actually after Commissioner Benak pulled it. I began to do some number crunching, and I visited the property appraiser's website relative to this particular property. So I would add the following food for thought. The overall acreage at the site is 3.46 acres. We are acquiring 1.65 of the 3.46 acres. That's a tad bit less than 50% of the overall acreage site that we are acquiring, both for the road right-of-way and for the retention pond. So when looking at the overall holdings of the fire district, this is a significant portion of their site that we are acquiring. The $3 a square foot that was offered by Mr. Agostinelli, who of course is no longer with the county, as Sia indicated, I said to myself, where did that number come from? There's been some suggestion that he compared it with neighboring appraisals or appraisals on neighboring properties. I think it is accurate that we did not actually have this site appraised, correct?
That's
Sia?
correct.
Yes. So what I did, again, in my visit to the property appraiser's website, I said, well, what is the assessed value of the land? The property appraiser assesses the land, exclusive of improvements, at $3.76 per square foot. This deal is at $3 a square. So that's interesting. That's interesting. We are, we're paying for the land 76 cents a square foot, less than what the property appraiser has assessed it at. I would suggest, all things considered, that it's not likely to get better for this government. If we are required to go to eminent domain, it is highly unlikely to get better. Is it painful? Indeed, it is painful. We're talking about a sister government here. Some would say that they ought to be donating the property. However, it's just, that's just not the way it works these days.
Too bad.
Everybody's looking to fatten their coffers in whatever ways they can.
Isn't that the truth?
And so I don't know that I'm necessarily going to blame the fire district for taking that approach. Again, at the end of the day, if we proceed to eminent domain, it's not going to get any better for you, just to be very, very frank in terms of the numbers. An appraiser, I don't know if an appraiser would look at this as, I don't know if they would regard the highest and best use for this property as being institutional in nature or some kind of commercial development. I don't know how an appraiser would approach it. But all things considered, the $3 a square is not particularly offensive.
Well,
to
correct me if I'm wrong, Mickey, but it seems like when I asked about this in my briefing, there were 2 appraisals that were done, and they were very much different. Can you
No.
address that?
No appraisals were done on this site.
Yeah.
No appraisals were done on this site.
Okay.
And so that's something else that you have to factor into the equation. We'll pay an appraiser. They'll then say, well, we're going to go out and hire an appraiser at the county's expense. And the ball begins to roll. So anyway, I offer that commentary for what it's worth.
Commissioner Benak, are you finished?
No, thank you. Well, and that's my point, that this is not a eminent domain case at this time. The ones that were to the north were. The one to the north was a full take of the property that included a house.
No, that was not eminent domain.
Well, okay, whatever.
Negotiated sale and purchase immediately north of this site, was it not, gentlemen?
I'm not saying it was eminent domain. I'm saying it was a very different case. It was a full take of a property that we decided to pay to avoid eminent domain. I read the package. So we came up with a much higher price. So very different situation, I believe, than here, where the fire district remains whole. The use of the fire district has full use of their property. We're not in any way taking away the use of their property. You know, and to me, looking at the value of the backside of a fire department, is it really worth $143,000 or whatever the math works out when you do the 3 point whatever? I mean, yes, when the appraised value for the entire site is compared, and I bet you $1 million it wasn't compared being a fire district, it was compared, as I've heard Charlie talk about how he does this, compares it with the other parcels in the area, what they can be used for, and a nice big 3-acre piece of property right off of State Road 70, yeah, that's a valuable piece of property. But that's not what we're going for. We're going for the backside of a fire department, and the fire department remains whole. That's my concern. Is that really how we should do it?
The fire
If we have no
department,
choice, I get it.
the
but
fire department
we
would
might have a
probably
choice.
respond to that by saying, wait a second, you're taking half of my acreage and you're saying I remain whole? What do you mean by that?
They're a fire station, and they remain a fire station. That's my...
And by the way, you did not hear me in my commentary compare the $3 a square with any other neighboring or surrounding site. You didn't hear me say that. What I did is I went on the property appraiser's website and I said, just out of curiosity, what's the assessed value of this land? And it's $3.76 per square foot. So just to be clear, you didn't hear the county attorney compare with any other surrounding sites.
Well, if I can respond to that.
Yes.
I was just saying that I've heard Charlie talk many times about how he does do his appraisal, and they do look at the surrounding sites. And as I said, to me, I mean, that number is not outrageous when you look at a 3+ acre site with close proximity, probably meets locational criteria as a guess, could be zoned commercial. So that, to me, is not surprising that number. But that's not exactly what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with the backside of a fire station. And I say the fire station remains whole because they're operating as a fire station and will continue to operate as a fire station even after this taking. I get it. I would never ask them to give up their property for free. But is this really something that, I understand where the number came from, but is this really the best we can do? And I feel my obligation as a county commissioner representing the taxpayers of Manatee County is try to get them the best deal.
Madam Chair, if I may add, the appraisal right off the get-go is $15,000. Correct. $15,000 for the appraisal. The property next door, you're alluding to the eminent domain, potential eminent domain case, forget that piece. The piece immediately next door to it, we executed with an appraisal about a couple months ago. That came out at $3.80 square foot. It was 1.6 acre, we paid $330,000. We already executed. That's immediately next door to Yoder, to the north, and it's vacant land. Now, having said all of that, I might just put you on notice. You're going to see another one in 2-3 weeks. You mentioned State Road 70. It's a small number. It's called Aldi. We'll take it right away from Aldi. Aldi, we negotiated what they paid for when they bought it. And that was range in two parcels, $10 a square foot and $12 a square foot. And we're only taking on the 45th Street frontage, not on the 70. So in comparison, if you want to take the 45th Street frontage at $10 to $12 a square foot, this being a few hundred yards north of it, is still on 45th, the $3. We not necessarily didn't object, nor did we back out of the email that was already officially sent out by previous head of the property management. And I might add also this, I'm very frugal in my personal life and with the county. I really didn't see this $3 to be a humongous issue in comparison to what we paid immediately adjacent to the area.
Anything else, Commissioner Benak?
Well, and I can do the math here, but $3 a square foot, and we take it, what does the number come out to? Did you figure that out? I don't really know. What is the cost? Is that the 200?
It's 60,000 times $3, 180 somewhere.
Yeah, for, I don't know, prices are up, that's great. That they're
Prices
getting that much
are up.
money for just over an acre and a half of land, vacant land, so that seems high to me, but I think I've explained why I think it seems high to me, because, like I said, it's a little bit different when you look at the, and I assume on a taking situation, when you look at an entire property taking it, you look at that differently than when you're taking a portion of the property, but yet not affecting the use of that property. So you have to have those kind of numbers to look at to compare. It's a different situation when we're only taking a portion of a parcel and not taking the use of a parcel, as opposed to the ones that we're talking about taking the entire parcel and the entire use of the parcel. So that's why I see it differently. But
The good part is the major takes on 45th are done as of today. There's minor, small items, and we are ready to go to bid as soon as we accomplish those.
Commissioner DeSabatino.
Yes. This parcel that's in back, is there access right away from 45th to get to it?
Now there is, we bought next door.
Oh, okay, because otherwise it would have been a flag lot, and it would, okay, so we own that. So, I'm just puzzled why we need that parcel in
The
the back.
stormwater pond.
Oh, okay.
Stormwater pond.
Stormwater. Okay, that solves.
That's the reason for the size.
Okay, well, that solves the problem there, okay.
Commissioner Whitmore.
And in the back, I heard the discussion, you don't know when a fire station, I mean, trust me, I always complain to my fire chief about what taxes I pay. But the one where I live, they're expanding. They're tearing it down and rebuilding it. As things grow out there, they may need to expand. So you can't say that their use of the property is going to be the same in 10 or 15 years. So I don't have a problem with it for that reason, because I've seen it happen in my district where I live, where they just tore the station that's been there forever and they're expanding it, and it's because of all the growth. So that's definitely going to happen out east. So you are affecting their property, maybe not today, but you could potential. So I'll support it.
Right.
All right, I don't have anyone else on the board. We'll go ahead and open this to public comment. Anyone in the public want to come forward and speak on this issue? Not seeing anyone, we'll close public comment. What is the pleasure of the board?
Move to approve the item.
Second.
Commissioner Whitmore made the motion. Commissioner DeSabatino seconded it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay?
nay.
Nay. 5-2 vote. Thank you.
And I just want to explain my nay vote.
I do too.
May have already done so, but without an appraisal, and I understand that that would have a cost to it, but without an appraisal to look at what this property with no access in the backside of a fire department is worth, I don't feel comfortable approving it at the cost that seemed like a good deal at $3 versus $3.60 some that we paid for an entire property to the north. So that's why I voted no.
And I just want to say, Sia, you do a tremendous job. And, you know, this is nothing against, and please don't take it that it's anything against your professional opinion and so forth. It's really not. I'm thinking more about the fire station directly.
I thank you. I'm not taking anything personal whatsoever. Like I said, I'm very
You've been doing it too long, huh, Sia?
A great job.
And I might add, we've been on a small easement, Commissioner Benak, with all small easements, small sidewalk, roulettes was on your agenda. We didn't do appraisal. Appraisal costs $5,000, $10,000. You want to go grab a $5,000 easement, you're spending $10,000, $15,000 on an appraisal. It is getting out of hand, I agree with you, but sometimes it's a judgment call. You got to go with the judgment call, and nobody's giving away money, and we're protecting public funds. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thought I had just Just see ya. No,
Oh.
I just.
Robin, I'm sorry, I didn't see you on the board.
I wanted, I was on the board, but,
Okay,
no,
sorry.
I just want to thank, I'm not beating up the messenger. No, because once you go out and you do that appraisal, then it's official.
Then we
It
have
could
to pay more.
come in more.
Right.
So then you're taking that risk that you would have to spend more money, and we know how much it costs to go through litigation. Sometimes you're paying 2 to 3 times what the appraisal says just to acquire the property, so, you know.
And furthermore, if I might, for the viewing public, we do hear folks complain all the time about how government pays too much for real estate.
Absolutely.
It is a built-in problem for the government. You are behind the 8 ball from the outset, okay? Because if it is a property that is necessary for public purpose, and it's a well-educated populace out there, if you own real estate, you are a generally, well-educated individual, frankly. And you are well-informed if you own real estate. And you've heard how the eminent domain process works. And it is an expensive process for the government. And so anytime anyone seeks to compare a sale and purchase arrangement between 2 private parties versus a sale and purchase arrangement between a private party and the government, that is an apples and oranges comparison. It is not apples to apples. The government will always pay more because you are behind the 8 ball, and it is a function of the eminent domain laws of the state of Florida. And so I think that's worth mentioning. It is not an apples-to-apples comparison to compare this with any private transaction.
If I
County
might,
Administrator.
and that is somewhat unique in the state of Florida. The state of Florida set the rules that you have to abide by. This is not the same way it is in all the other states. This state is very, very into private property rights and protects them through those eminent domain statutes.
All right, Commissioner Bustle.
Well, it seems to me it's pretty straightforward, the alternatives that we were presented. And to think that there's some advantage to getting an appraisal, I'm not sure there is. What if the appraisal came in for $5 an acre? And the fire department said, okay, that's your price. Or if it comes in at $1 an acre, fire department says your price is $3 an acre because you already told us that's what. And they're the seller. They don't have to go by the appraisal.
Yeah, your staff makes these judgment calls all the time, as Sia indicated. When we go for smaller acquisitions, granted, this is not a smaller acquisition, so but there are many scenarios where we forego having a formal appraisal done of the property. Frankly, in looking at this one, all is said and done. Granted, this is a significant acquisition, but in looking at these numbers and in crunching these numbers, and trust me, I've been doing this for almost 3 decades now. Trust me when I tell you, commissioners, this one will not get better for you.
Commissioner DeSabatino.
Yeah, and I think just to drive this home, anyone who's negotiating with the county perceives us as having deep pockets and holding us over a barrel, so to speak. So, they can negotiate. And, I like what Commissioner Bustle said. If it comes in at $5, they can, or $1, they can charge whatever they want, and we have to go with it. So, frankly, when I was going through my, didn't come on my radar as being something, because I know what we have to do, and you're doing a great job doing it and fast forwarding this whole project. So thanks.
Commissioner Whitmore.
And can you please give us an update, like send us an email on how much so far this is all costing? You gave us a number last year, the year before, and I still use that number, and I know it's outdated. And my only other comment is Sia's going to be dancing a jig out of here because 45th is done now.
Close.
And,
Close.
well, almost close, yeah. But the closest it's been, and at least this has been a big thing for him, and I know you're happy that it's done. But if you could give us approximately how much, I think it was like 50-something million or 30-something million. Do you remember? I mean, the last time you told us?
Remember that number, but I won't guess, but what I will do is come back and I'll send my BOCC
Okay,
email
thanks.
with status reports.
Thanks.
Sia, you really have done a great job putting
thank you.
45th together.
It's a
Good job.
teamwork. It's
Yeah.
Public Works done a wonderful job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're persistent.
Guys. All right, well, it looks like we have finished our agenda, and it's not even 12 o'clock yet. I'm real impressed, commissioners.
Well,
Let's go to commissioner comments. Or, I'm sorry, let me back up. We need to go to citizen comments for consideration for future agenda items. I do not have any cards. Is there anyone in the public that would like to come forward on future agenda items? Not seeing any. I'll close it. All right. Commissioner comments. Carol, let's start with you.
Okay, just real quick. First of all, I don't know if you all knew, but a well-respected physician passed away Sunday or Saturday with a heart condition, and Dr. Jose Acosta, he'd been practicing over 30 years. I actually opened his office for him, ordered his furniture, his blood pressure cuffs, because that's what I did in my old days as physician liaison. So it's a big, major blow to the community. He's out in Ellington. I know Commissioner Smith knew him well. His mother, that was their physician for many, many years. So I think as a board and myself, I just want to give our prayers and wishes to the family, because it's not easy. And actually to all the patients that he served. I was just at his office Friday delivering orders. So, you just never know when it's your time and God tells you it's time to go. So anyway, I had to at least bring that up publicly because he's been in our community for years. Ungarelli Preserve was a smashing hit. Commissioner Chappie did a good job with the presentation. The Ungarelli family was all there, and it was a great day, and that was Saturday. And then I'm going to run up real quick, and I'm going to ask to pass these out. I toured 22,000 acres of our preserves last week, and I'm going to go to the dice real quick, Madam Chair. I'll be fast. And these were all taken with my iPhone, so I apologize for the quality. But I started at Robinson's Preserve, and then I worked my way east. So this is the conceptual drawing of what's the educational center is going to be. Still need about $300,000 to $600,000 more to finish that whole project, but that's what's been on the drawing boards, and I'm sure the commissioners have seen it before. Was at GT Bray at 8 in the morning, and it was packed with citizens from all over the county. And as you saw, there's Sam and our star with our videos, and Charlie, and that was before we got going for the day. Robinson's Preserve, I haven't been there in a couple of years. And this is one of the boardwalks. It was full at like 10 or 10:30. There were people all over. This was during the week. And everybody was so nice to the rangers and stuff. You all know Randy, and Mike is actually Charlie's second-hand man. For those that, this was in Robinson's. There was mullet all over. You could see fiddler crabs. I haven't seen fiddler crabs in years. So we're doing a good thing out in Robinson's. Red, black, and white mangroves all in one area. And Charlie's very proud of that, and so is staff. At Robinson's also, people from all over the United States are putting this on their social media. You can barely see it. Whoops, it's because I have it upside down. 2 barn owls were there, and it's on social media all over the world. People are going there just because they'd heard about it. You saw the Rye Preserve, and you saw the map. This is Manatee Fish Camp. Charlie and I stopped there for lunch, and they had the best grilled cheese and stuff like that, and there was all kinds of people there, fishermen there. They fish in the river, and that's just before you go, further out east as we were heading to Rye. This is Duet, and I did a panoramic, so you can see as far as you can see anything but land. There's only 6 guys that manage the whole 22,000 acres. They're getting ready to, when the humidity picks up, they're going to do controlled burns out there. That's how they maintain the wildlife. And here's the crew, and there's only, and the guy, John, he said he's got a total of 6 people that go out there and help him. And of course, Charlie. This was at DeWitt. I captured this, and I actually gave this to Charlie today for his room. I thought that was a great picture of him. And then there's all kinds of stuff to do, as you can see, at Rye Preserve. And this was at Robinson's, all the kayakers, and that was again at 9 o'clock. They had a kayakers club. And I actually climbed the tower, and there was an 80-year-old lady that was climbing it. And she was from Anna Maria Island. So I just, I try to do it every couple years to tour the preserves. And we all should be very proud of what we do in Manatee County, and that doesn't really get said enough. I know we have intermittent newspaper stories on it, but I really think we need to celebrate that we have 30,000 acres of preserves in Manatee County, and that's a lot. I think that's more than Sarasota. So anyway, I just wanted to let you all know, and that's all I have.
All right, Commissioner DeSabatino, please.
Good meeting, and I called, we'll finish by 12, so that's good.
Don't count on it.
I like the tone of the meeting this morning about the county, and I like that coastal Manatee tourism is a destination, and the coastal is a destination, so that's very cool. Just real quick, one question for the county administrator. When we had that joint meeting with Sarasota County, and they kind of threw at us about the medical examiner's office.
Oh, right.
What's the status on that? If you can research that and come back to us?
I'll have to check. I think I better check.
Okay. And that's it. Thank you.
Commissioner Chappie.
Commissioner Whitmore mentioned Ungarelli. It's just another great opportunity, and again, the county protecting and preserving our coastal community. I can hardly wait till Perico opens up. You guys are going to be blown away if you haven't been out there yet. It is incredible what's been going on out there.
Really? Good.
Then, special thanks, I think, to the outgoing police chief, Radzkowski of City of Bradenton, and welcome to the new police chief, Bevan. So we were at the little luncheon they had yesterday, so that was very nice, and that's about it. Thank you.
Commissioner Bustle.
I talked about Rabonia already. Interestingly, one of the things that did not come up last night was the RFP and the proposal to reopen eventually the community center. It didn't come up, and I didn't bring it up. But if there are any questions, I'd be happy to.
What's happening with it?
They said they're coming back.
We have a communication to the proposers that we're ready, willing, and able to get it in front of the board. As soon as they're finished doing their due diligence, we'll get it before you.
I think it's very important how this turns out, and I appreciate the discipline that the county staff has in making sure that the proposal is doable, executable. It would be terrible to rush into a deal and have it fall on its face. So I appreciate what you're doing. One thing I guess we probably should think about is, what was it? Well, they already talked about the projects out there. I can't remember what the other one was. You're up. Tag, you're in.
I'm up, Madam Chair. Okay, well, thank you. I really don't have much, just a statement more than anything. As I've been, going to association meetings, Pamela Estates and Leisure Lakes, and speaking and listening to the Leisure Lake Mobile Home Park, and Pamela Estates and association meetings, and the Washington Garden Association meeting, which is two different neighborhood associations, and I think it's really good that we're dealing with the Finance Committee and Affordable Home Committee. those are the main things, questions that I'm getting asked, and also about the traffic. I mean, I don't care where you go, you're getting asked about the traffic situation. I think I'll be interested when these committees come back with their recommendations or what their concerns is with the county and how we should move forward with different things that's important to the quality of life. Certainly, what's taking place in Rabonia is moving forward. I'm excited about that. Samoset and Cortez, all these historic communities, Cortez, Samoset, Rabonia, as we grow, we cannot forget about them. Because as you know, when we continue to grow, we kind of forget that they were here before most people. And so there's history there, there's legacy there, there's generations of families. And so I just want us to keep an ear to those communities that's important to the foundation of Manatee County. And that's all I have, Madam Chair.
I remembered what,
Go ahead,
I remembered what I forgot.
That happens to me all the time.
The function that they have out there every year, the parade and
Parish?
Harris?
parrot,
Chili cook-off.
Rabonia, no, Rabonia.
Rabonia, you're talking about Mardi Gras.
And that's very important to them as a community. And it's essentially being swept to the side because I think it's a lack of experience in leading or managing a project like that. The significant cost is security. The sheriff has pretty much dictated what the requirement is for people, for officers out there. And, I'm certainly not questioning that, but that is a major cost item. And I don't know if there's any way that the county can help with the overall management of it, offer some sort of management expertise to help them develop the project and manage it, because it really seems to me that it ought to be profitable. I mean, there's so many people that show up. It ought to be profitable somehow so that they can afford to keep it going. And I think that would do a lot for self-esteem and community esteem for the morale in that community.
Commissioner Burnett. Oh, whoa, wait a minute.
Oh, that's nice. You
Commissioner
skipped
Smith.
everybody else. I like that.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I just want to respond to Mayor Bosley. He's so correct about what he's saying. You'll be amazed at the phone calls I received from Detroit, Atlanta, different places saying, are you going to have the Mardi Gras this year because we want to schedule our vacation? And to tell them that we was not going to have it was very stunning. In the history of the Mardi Gras, which is world famous, buses came down and people scheduled their vacations around that Mardi Gras. And we're talking about an event that brought people together from Terracea and everywhere that came down to it, from Miami, you name it, they came down here. And certainly, as the mayor mentioned, the thing was I don't know of anyone that can pay for 50 deputies. I don't care what event you're having. That's the steep price. And I think this is something that we should work with someone for next year to deal with the Mardi Gras, because it's something that's important to Manatee County. And I know some of the commissioners, I've had corporations that basically wanted to support it. We just didn't get it done. I mean, cross-sectional companies wanted to support it this year, and they liked it. They liked bringing their employees to it. They liked bringing their people who are vendors to it. It was like a showcase of Manatee County and Rabonia. And Rabonia is known for the historic of what they've done and probably being the first community here, but also for that Mardi Gras. And, I want to thank the mayor for putting those signs up there. And the board supported them because it designated Rabonia. And people come and say, I didn't know this was the Rabonia. When they come visit our church, you'll be amazed. This is the Rabonia that Mardi Gras took. But I just wanted to say that and back that up, Madam Chair. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Commissioner DeSabatino.
Yeah, does any money from the TDC go towards that?
can,
Has not been requested to my knowledge. as of
okay,
yet.
so that could be an avenue.
I think this,
The option.
yeah, I think there's something that, as the mayor, we get some people responsible to move forward with that and keep that community whole, and to look at participating in this here for next year, and make it the event that it has been. You know, it was up to 20,000 people.
And also, I mean, I know the Tallahassee was bringing it up, but I don't think it went anywhere this year, and that's something maybe we can put on our radar for next year, is to be able to allocate a portion of our TDC funds for law enforcement for events.
It didn't go that far.
But
The
how-
bill that's going is in the Panhandle.
Okay.
Only.
So,
And, you
but
know-
maybe we can, keep carrying that torch. Might not take a year or two,
Well-
but that's very important for us to be able to have a source of funding from the tourist dollars to pay for law enforcement, and that's critical.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, Commissioner DeSabatino, because, I do know we have the fair, and even we have a multicultural in Palmetto. It's built in with law enforcement to be there paid.
Right. And no matter what event it is,
And,
you're
yeah.
going to need it for the rowing.
Gonna need it, yeah.
You're
We're gonna
going
need
to
it.
need it for a lot of things.
So we need to look at that, whether somebody can pay for some number. I think this county has a responsibility, even with the rowing events, to be able to add some additional law enforcement there, because it's bringing revenue to Manatee County. Let's
Exactly.
face it, and Manatee County is growing. I think we're gonna become a destiny, if some of the stuff that's taking place, if it come to pass. I mean, we won't be to Orlando or Disney, but we'll be closing in on them. We're not that far away, where people can actually come down for 2 or 3 days and go back to Orlando.
So we can bring it up next week at Pancakes and Politics about this.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Want
Yeah.
to bring it up next week?
I think all of us should. Thanks.
Commissioners, if I might, the bill that is about to pass, as I understand it, allowing the use of TDC monies to fund law enforcement and emergency medical services, that bill will not apply to Manatee County. It is applicable to counties with populations of less than 225,000 people.
Yeah.
Well,
They're the ones that do
Yeah.
it.
we can amend it.
So,
All people voting for that?
Tell
The
her
whole
what?
county or an event?
No, any account.
That's the population.
Amend that.
Yeah, and I think we should pursue looking at amending it, and I think we should pursue
This week?
possibly looking at tourist development funds. I think the
agree.
Rivonia Mardi Gras, it is an incredible Manatee County cultural event. I will tell you that I've always taken my children since they were small to the event so that they would be in a multicultural environment. I think it's extremely important. My mother did it for me when I was a child, to make sure that I was exposed to multicultural environments, and I have done it for my children. And I think it is an extremely important event in this community. And I'm really sad to hear, and I didn't even think about it, because I got this little thing called a wedding going on next week. I hadn't even thought about the Mardi Gras not taking place till
Yeah.
it came up. But that really concerns me. I think we should do, as a community, what we can to help that to happen. You know,
I do
we have
too.
incredible community events. We have the parade. You know, we have all of these heritage events in Manatee County is what makes Manatee County so special. I think the Rivonia Mardi Gras is an incredible,
It's incredible.
special
Yeah, it is.
event. I've learned about it and have attended it. I have friends that live up there and used to throw a big party during the day. We've always taken our bikes and parked at the school and ridden in so that we didn't have to deal with the traffic. And to see the folks coming into town and to see the folks coming from the mobile home parks in their golf carts
And
enjoying
all
the
of your
day.
veterans, they're in uniform.
It's just
I mean,
so
it's just, yeah.
special. So I agree, you know, if we can, if there's somebody that could take the reins, you know, for the community, that this county, we have a great TDC program that they possibly can help. And I don't know all the rules on funding, but, you know, and I understand that, you know, certain places like Orlando don't want that money to go for anything other than promotion. But, you know, that may be one way to do it, but there may be other ways to do it.
Yeah.
But I would be in favor of having our group help out if we can.
Yep.
Are you finished, Jim?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Banack.
Yeah, and I do want to thank my fellow commissioners for going to all these great events. I had to miss a lot of them this past weekend, And so I appreciate everybody filling in and going to everything. I know y'all had fun going to all the events. There were so many things going on Saturday. I know Commissioner Bowe runs around like crazy going to these things. And I promise to be fully engaged as a commissioner after the wedding is done on Saturday.
Oh, is this weekend?
Promise to be fully engaged
Did a
after my
wedding
daughter's
shower
wedding
last
is
week.
over on Saturday. I did want to also bring up one letter that I saw in the paper, and I asked for our CAC to respond, and it was about, why do we charge for ambulance rides? And it was a question that somebody had, and it was, somebody wrote in, and I said, I don't think people understand how we finance these things. Florida is a very low tax state, a good thing. Manatee County is a low property rate state or county, good thing. Haven't raised the property rate, but it does require us to find other alternative funds to be able to fund things. So no, your property taxes do not provide 100% for every ambulance ride. We bill for that. We expect people to pay. And I think that, again, there's a lot of confusion, and I asked for a CAC to respond, and it occurred to me, I didn't have a person, it was just a name in the newspaper. It was, Gary Bogart was the name of the newspaper, and I didn't know if it was a Gary Bogart. I knew. I was assuming it was, but now I'm not so sure. So, but I think that anytime we can get information out to people to clarify. They also said, well, where they came from, that the fire departments don't charge at all for fire services.
Well,
I'm
they
pretty
charge
sure our
us
fire
taxes.
departments charge. Luckily,
Lots of taxes.
knock on fake wood, I've never had to call them, but I'm pretty sure they do charge,
They
right?
do? I don't think they do.
No, I don't know. I don't know if you
No,
call for
'cause they
fire,
charge-
do they charge?
Texas.
They
Ad valorem
take
and some
taxes,
of
they
them-
don't
Texas.
charge.
Oh, they don't
tax
charge
us
at all?
big.
Some of them's a rate, some of them's ad valorem.
Yeah, I think, well, we don't know. They're not us. The fire department is not county.
Separate
It is
district.
separate
Taxing district.
taxing districts. So anyways, it just, anytime we can get that kind of information out, I think it's a good thing.
Absolutely.
That's all I got. I think we're almost done. Just a quick congratulations to Commissioner Bussell and Edie about being in the parade
Yeah.
on
sorry
Saturday.
I missed it.
It was a
Need to
great
smile.
picture of you in the paper, by the way. And
Like that hat.
Nice
I
hat.
like the hat. And Larry, I just want you to know that the chili cook-off in Parrish was very successful. I can tell you, I've never seen so much chili in my life.
Indigestion.
Oh, my, it was a
I
lot.
know.
And, Commissioner Benek, you're right. There were so many great events this past weekend. It was hard to make sure that we got them all covered, but I think we did. And I just appreciate all the commissioners getting out and trying to be a part of all the events that we have at the community. So that being said, I'm not going to take it any further.
County attorney?
Oh, yeah.
County Attorney, Mickey, I almost didn't see you.
Yes, Commissioners, I need to talk with you about the Holmes Beach vacation matter. I was
Oh,
able
you
to,
want to spend it?
We're going on vacation?
We take us a vacation?
street vacation,
Oh.
street
In
vacation.
summer.
Street
Oh.
This is a legal matter. I was able to talk with 6 of you yesterday. Just pass those down. And so, yeah, let me go ahead and put it up on the overhead. One's coming your way, ma'am.
Oh, thank you.
This is obviously a non-agenda item, but we just discovered within the last couple of days about the public hearing that is scheduled for tonight at 7 o'clock, Holmes Beach City Commission. So, Chris, if you can help me to zoom in here. Each of you has a copy of this in front of you now. Again, you will recognize the geography here. You should. This is the Manatee Public Beach at the very end of Manatee Avenue. And you can see the overall county-owned real estate there. The yellow rectangle down here is it is a non-constructed city right-of-way that is the subject of a vacation application. The applicant is the property owner to the immediate east. You'll see the red outline there. It's an existing hotel property, as I understand it. But that is the applicant for the street vacation. Now, to the immediate left of the yellow triangle, you will see sort of a triangular-shaped area. That is actually an old platted lot. It is a platted lot of record. It measures, or it contains roughly 2,500 square feet. It is owned by Manatee County government. And as you can see, it's the southernmost tip, if you will, of our real estate holdings there at the public beach area. And so the question, for this board to consider is whether or not you want to take an official position on the proposed vacation application, whether you want to oppose it, or whether you want to take no position at all. The technical point to be made here is that if this vacation application is granted, then the county's, the little triangle down there, that platted lot, will no longer be accessible via a public right-of-way. Now, granted, what's there is an unconstructed right-of-way as we speak, although it's my understanding, and this aerial is somewhat deceiving, it looks like it's heavily treed, but that's a canopy. In point of fact, the area is walkable, and it's my understanding that a lot of pedestrians use it to gain access to the public beach area from southerly of this area. In fact, if you look at the tip of my pen right there on the screen, that is an apartment complex. The owner of that complex has written a letter to the city officially objecting to the proposed vacation, and they say that their residents and visitors there routinely use this triangular area, this unconstructed right-of-way, again, pedestrians, to access the surf shop, to access the Manatee Beach and the cafe there, to access something called Skinny's, some business called Skinny's, et cetera, et cetera.
Something called Skinny?
So, anyway, the document just flew away there. So the question is, what is this board's pleasure? Do you want to oppose it? Do you want to dispatch somebody to the city commission meeting to oppose it on your behalf? It's just something that we need to bring to your attention.
Commissioner Whitmore.
Well, as city commissioner and mayor of the city, this issue got brought up because this hotel that you see on the right in red was using that property, putting their furniture and stuff, and this is actually a city right-of-way and a road. Actually, if you see the line, it goes all the way. So after a few years of lots and lots of meetings, the city said, no, this is our property, you're not going to use this hotel to put your lawn chairs and all your stuff for your customers. And so the city maintains that, and so that the citizens, like you say, can walk and go to the beaches. Mickey brought this to our attention. I'm very familiar with this, and I would request that our attorney represent us and still state, because we could still use this property on the Gulf area for a beach renourishment where we have to store stuff if we had to. We have no access to it, except I guess if you came to the beach. This way we have an access to it. So if there was anything that we wanted to do on our property, we'd have to go the beach way then. And I think and we can do it respectfully, that we respectfully request that they deny it. City did it for years. We fought it for years.
Commissioner Benek.
Yeah, I got concerns on a couple fronts. One, this provides access to a parcel that the county owned. You should never get rid of access to a parcel that you have, regardless of what the use might be.
Right.
And second, there used to be a policy in the comprehensive plan. I searched, I could not find it for a little bit yesterday after our briefing, that said that the county should not vacate access in any cases to waterfront property, to the shoreline. We should not vacate public access to a beach. So it was good enough for the county. I think we should object to it on those grounds as well. And I couldn't find it in the comp plan anymore. I don't know if it's still there, but it used to be in the comp plan, so.
Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That was exactly my comments to the county attorney in my briefing, exactly what Commissioner Benak has just stated. I think we should oppose it. I'm not for cutting off the water for any individual that may want to approach the water. If we do not intervene in this issue, who's to say it may not be fenced in? You know, I think I'm familiar with that area there where you can park and walk straight to the beach versus going further down the road. And I think we should oppose it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Bustle.
Madam Chair, I move that we advise City of Holmes Beach that we strongly oppose the vacation of that property.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Bustle, second by Commissioner DeSabatino. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. It is unanimously approved.
And final
Palmer.
question, how do you want to accomplish that? Do you want to do it by way of a letter?
No.
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 Tonight.
Oh, someone needs to go to the
No, we
meeting
need you,
represent.
I
unfortunately.
suspect that someone is me.
Yeah, we need, yeah.
Just smile.
Holmes Beach vacation that you're
You
talking
can
about.
sing.
Now you got your vacation.
I will call my wife and let her know not to look for me for dinner at dinner tonight.
No.
Okay.
No.
Sorry.
Thank you. That's all right. No, that's.
Wait, if I
that's-
may.
No, that's my job.
He had planned on it
Well,
yesterday.
Take out to the
Wait a
beach.
minute.
Tell her to meet you. Goddamn.
Vicki, is there someone else in your office that might be more
That lives nearby.
Inclined to saddle one of my lawyers with this duty. I'll handle it.
He's from there. He used to go
But
out.
I'll handle
it's
it.
your decision to make.
And that's his
Your staff.
expertise.
Right, you're eminent. Yeah, that's your expertise, too.
Yeah.
I shall handle it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
All right, I don't see any other comments before the board, so this meeting is adjourned.